Are we ready to review the consent calendar? Okay,
Ready.
it's item number 1, Zanev modification, the pool. Is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Can you go through the drawings?
Yeah, this is Adam Cunningham. I'm the designer working with Slav Denev, and I'm not sure. I mean, do we flip through each sheet?
I'm not, do we have the comments from last time? Oh, I see, okay. Oh, okay, here we go.
Want me to read them, Alex?
So, yeah, we have positive comments. Has anything changed?
No, I just more detailing on the stonework and the steps.
Can we see that? What page would that be?
That would be on A61.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I see. We see the stone on the retaining walls. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
And do we have the color board available? I mean, that kind of shows what the stone walls will look like. We're just matching existing sandstone walls. And then it also shows the light fixture that we're putting in the walls along the steps.
That's it. It's a separate sheet, or
You know what page that materials board would be on?
The color board,
Yes.
that's a separate sheet, yeah. It's not part of the set of drawings. It should just be a 8.5 by 11 that was submitted.
no? It's not in the file, but look, it doesn't matter. I saw this online. It's complete enough. It's good for approval. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you.
So item number C2 is the Toro Canyon accessory structures by, what's the address here? 3568 Toro Canyon Road.
Good morning,
Yeah.
we're here.
Good. What has changed, if anything?
We just brought you all the details for preliminary and final, because when we were here in October, there were no specific comments about changing anything. It just said, great and carefully thought out project.
Correct. I look at the details online, but we should push them over because they're it's very nicely detailed. See if you can get to the detailed pages.
Hi, this is John Kucharski here with Two Trees Architects. The details are sort of near the middle of the set. I'll give you a page number here pretty soon here. Like page 20 has the details starting on page 20. It's basically, there's some existing structures on site, and so the architecture is to match the existing architecture, and that's the whole concept of it.
Very good. So we didn't have many comments, so we would approve it as submitted then. Okay?
Great.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes the consent calendar.
Okay. Okay. It just got, yeah, just ended up in the wrong spot. All right, and we will begin the June 7th SBAR hearing. And we will begin with any public comment not pertaining to items on today's agenda. Anyone, audience or online? agenda item B. Sorry, Laura. Okay. All right, so we'll close public comment and move on to the agenda status report.
We have not received any continuances for today's agenda.
Okay, and we'll review the minutes from May 3rd and May 17th. The May 3rd minutes have already been reviewed, so we just need to make a motion once we have quorum, and then we can review May 17th today. And I actually wanted to note, if our board, now that we have a quorum here, can review the minutes online prior to coming, so that all we have to do is make comments in the hearing, individually review them. I think it'll make the start of the hearing go faster.
Are you proposing that we look at the minutes online?
Yes, like when we're sent the box folder from Jonathan, so that we can review the minutes from the last hearing prior to coming today, so that all we have to do is discuss any changes to the minutes and
Great idea.
pre-reviewed.
Excellent.
Okay, so we'll start with May 3rd. Is that what's on the,
Let me get that up right now.
and these are the ones that have been previously reviewed, so once they're on, if anyone wants to make
I'll
a,
make a motion to approve the May 3rd minutes.
do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just to approve the May 3rd minutes.
Moving on to May 17th. Just a note on item C1, I was contacted by the county to give additional input on this item, which I gave, but the input is coming from county staff to the applicant. And we can keep scrolling. Okay, we can move on to S2. Okay. Can we go back to number 2, S2? I don't believe they brought a landscape plan, so that might have been why we included those.
Should they read more like use tree plantings, because study when the study is very wishy-washy. Say, I studied. Okay, so just say, use tree plantings to better find the project.
I think these are updated because of the the support of the exception to the Hillside Ridge line. 'Cause I remember that comment. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can keep scrolling, thanks. Okay. Good. All right. We keep going. Wow, we had a lot of continuances.
A question on 8. C, it says, consider whether standing seam roof will require hemmed gutters. Now, is that clear, right? What's the point of that?
If I recall, it was that someone on the board, I can't remember who now, wanted to make sure the ridgeline detail wasn't, that it was detailed well, I guess. Was it John? Oh, a member who is not here. Okay. All right, Rodriguez edition. Anything else? Okay. That was last one. Okay, do we have a motion to approve May 17th minutes?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
I wasn't there, so I'll have to.
Okay. All right, and we'll move on to SBAR member informational briefings. All right, I was gonna make a comment, but I think I'm gonna wait until all members are present for hearing. So, and so we'll close briefings and move on to item 5, staff update. And we have one request to speak. Laura Bradley? Or, okay, okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, we have a slideshow presentation from Long Range Planning from the planner Karina Venegas.
I'll start things off. Alex Tuttle, Long Range Planning. How's everyone doing? Yeah, so someone, Karina, who you may or may not have met on our Long Range Planning team, is patched in remotely, and she'll be running through this presentation. The purpose of the briefing this morning is to go over some proposed design standards for to address a couple particular project types that Karina will present, and then we're looking for, if you have any comments, questions, feedback that we should take into consideration as we move this effort forward. Jonathan, does this work?
Oh, I'm not sure. I can advance the slides. Yeah. Next one.
We can start there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning again. Just for the record, my name is Karina Venegas Martin. So as Alex, Deputy Director, already mentioned, we're going to be looking for some recommendations and potential feedback based off these objective design standards for Senate Bill 9 and the county's telecom ordinance. So I just want to give a just very brief overview of each project, and then I'm going to go into detail through my later slides. But for Senate Bill 9, it's formerly known as through Government Code Section 65852.21. Senate Bill 9 became effective on January 1st of 2022, and it essentially streamlines the process for a homeowner to construct up to 2 primary dwelling units, as well as subdivide an existing single-family dwelling lot. And key provisions of the law allow a local agency to apply objective design or development standards as long as they would not preclude the construction of up to 2 primary dwelling units of at least 800 square feet in size. And a similar effort, I just want to note, that occurred last year with the multifamily objective design standards, which also resulted from state law, were drafted and adopted with input from the BAR. So for Senate Bill 9, we use some of those standards, but we appropriately scaled them down so that they would apply to single-family type of development. And then for telecom, under the FCC's 2018 small cell order, local jurisdictions may exercise local oversight of issues relating to aesthetics, undergrounding, and minimum spacing requirements of small wireless facilities, provided that those requirements are reasonable and that they are technically feasible and no more burdensome than those applied to other types of infrastructure development. And just also want to note that staff followed a similar approach that the city of Santa Barbara took when developing their objective design standards. So jumping into Senate Bill 9, it allows up to 2 attached or detached primary units in a single family zone. The subdivision of a parcel in a single family zone into 2 parcels or both. And Senate Bill 9 facilitates the creation of up to 4 housing units in a lot, typically used for one single family home. And projects under SB 9 must be considered ministerially without discretionary review or hearing, which means, these projects would not be reviewed for design or by the BARs. And listed on this slide are the single family residential zones that would qualify for these projects. And also ADUs can be combined with primary units, but they would also count towards the total maximum unit amount. Next slide, please. And as you can see from the image on this slide, there are various configurations that could occur with projects subject to SB 9. And for example, if a lot split occurs, jurisdictions must allow 2 units on each resulting lot. And that could include a primary ADU, junior ADU, but they will all count towards the 2-unit limit. And if no lot split occurs, then the lot is eligible to have up to 4 units. And that could look like, again, 2 primary units, ADU, a junior ADU. There are multiple ways to kind of configure that. Next slide. And then here's an overview of the standards I'm going to be going over. And again, these standards cannot physically preclude the development of up to 2 primary units of at least 800 square feet. And similar to ADUs, state law dictates a minimum 4-foot side and rear setback. But these units would still be subject to standard front setbacks. And then standards that are marked with the blue asterisk were those that were borrowed or taken from the multi-unit project and then scaled to apply to single-family projects. Next slide. For the maximum unit size allowed, staff proposes to use a 0.2 floor area ratio, or FAR, approach that allows a minimum of 800 square feet, which again, state law, and then a maximum unit size of 2,000 square feet per unit. On the left-hand side of this table, we indicated a law area range, and then on the right side, we provided a maximum unit size using the 0.2 FAR. And then for those projects with 2 primary units, whether they be existing or proposed, they would be subject to a maximum of 0.4 FAR and it would be a combined 0.4 FAR. Next slide. So additionally, we are proposing to allow up to 500 square feet for an attached garage or carport with standard setbacks and also having some similar architectural design. And then we included an allowance of 20% of the floor area for the new unit to have an attached architectural feature such as a covered patio, a covered deck, porch. And this is an approach that we actually took from the ADU ordinance and then we carried it over. Next slide. So for height limits, staff tried to find an appropriate height limit that would provide for reasonable development while still protecting neighborhood compatibility. And we proposed that for new attached dwelling units, not to exceed the height of an existing primary dwelling unit on the parcel, or 25 feet and a maximum of 2 stories, whichever is greater. And then for new detached dwelling units, they shall not exceed a height of 25 feet and also a maximum of 2 stories. And all new dwellings, whether they be attached or detached, they will still need to comply with all other applicable height regulations. And that would include like the ridge line, hillside guidelines, and then height limits in Summerlin. And we did want to see if we could get some feedback on whether to continue to allow the additional 3 feet for pitched roofs. Next slide, please. And then for building design, so additions or new attached units will need to be designed and constructed to match architectural style, colors, exterior building materials, finishes, and this could include a range of things such as siding, windows, doors, roofing, hardware, railings. It can go on. And then all sides of the buildings shall be articulated with common details, materials, and elements. And for building facades that are more than 30 feet in length, they shall include architectural elements that can be a front porch, balconies, upper story setbacks, projections, and recessions. Next slide. Recess door and window openings. So we are proposing to incorporate recess door and window openings with a minimum of 6 inches for garage doors. All entrances shall have either a projected sheltering element or be recessed from the main facade. The projection or recess shall have a minimum depth of 24 inches. And then for windows, they shall be either recessed at least 3 inches from the plane of the surrounding exterior wall, or shall have a trim or window sill of at least 1/2 inch in depth. Next slide. The exterior of the primary wall could include materials such as wood, composite wood, stone, veneer, granite, or stucco. However, exposed plywood or glass curtain walls would be prohibited. The building must include at least 2 paint colors, one being for the main wall color and another for architectural trim pieces, such as maybe siding material. Window frame materials and colors shall be used on all elevations. And then there shall be some transition between colors or materials, but they should occur at inside corners of intersecting walls or architectural features. Next slide. Garages shall feature at least windows, paneled door surface, maybe 2 different colors or alternative materials, finishes, and treatments. There shall be at least 2 roof forms, primary and secondary. Shiny roofing and siding materials or glossy metallic finishes are prohibited. And then the light reflective value percentage, we noted, shall be below 0.84 with a matte finish. Garage conversions shall replace the garage door opening with exterior wall coverings or residential windows and doors to match the existing exterior garage or residence. Next slide. And then to protect privacy, staff proposes to implement privacy standards for primary dwelling units that are either 2 stories tall or greater than 16 feet in building height. So for example, an upper story unenclosed, landings, decks, balconies greater than 20 square feet that face or overlook an adjoining property shall be located a minimum of 10 feet from the side and rear lot lines and interior lot lines, unless landscape screening with a 6-foot minimum height is provided along the perimeter areas visible from the landing, deck, or balcony. And then upper story windows located within 15 feet of a side or rear lot line and face or overlook an adjoining property shall be installed a minimum of 48 inches above finished floor to protect privacy. And that's a standard we would like some specific feedback on whether that would be an appropriate 48-inch height limit. Next slide. Private open space shall be provided for each residential unit at a ratio of at least 300 square feet for units that have 2 or less bedrooms. And then each bedroom in excess of 2 shall require 100 square feet per additional bedroom. And this open space must be directly accessible to the dwelling that it will be serving. The required front yard setback area shall not be utilized to satisfy the open space requirement. However, side and rear setback areas may be utilized. And then balconies, patios, decks, or unenclosed porches may also count towards this open space requirement. And the minimum width shall not be less than 10 feet. Next slide. And I think that's a good maybe stopping point, just to see if you have any questions or any feedback. But that pretty much wraps up Senate Bill 9, and then we can jump into telecom after.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board?
Yeah, I would like to have more time to look at this. This is a lot of information. It's impossible to, to really comment on this. Just one comment comes off the top of my head.
Just do questions first, because then we'll go to
Okay.
public comment.
Sure.
Does anyone have any other questions about this? I guess, sorry, I'm a new chair on this board, so I'm just trying to catch up. Is there a map for where this will apply? Will it apply for like the Summerlin overlay area or some of the other overlays, or just do I have a county map to like reference where it will apply?
So it would essentially be any urban area that has that zoning of residential single-family zoning. So
Okay. so
Summerlin, Montecito, Carpinteria,
Mission Canyon, all,
Canyon,
okay,
Lita. Anything within like what the census defines as an urbanized area
okay.
with single-family zoning.
My question, I guess,
We do have we could show a map if that would be helpful.
it would help me, just to be able to visualize what's being removed from like SBAR purview, I guess, right? To review.
If you want to come in under these standards.
Yeah. Okay. And then I think I had a question. So who would make the decision then? So like some of the standards will be like no shiny roofing, for example. So who then makes the decision? Is it the planner on the project that makes the decision about whether it's too shiny or not? Those kind of specific but vague type standards.
Initially, it would be the planner.
Okay.
We are setting up the ordinance similar to how we've done it with the multifamily standards, where if it's not obvious and the planner feels the need for some technical expertise to support the review, that we could potentially coordinate with like the BAR chair or designee to help review a set of plans to see if it meets the standards.
Okay.
We're also contemplating, because we're getting, this is becoming the new normal with regard from the state limiting discretion, particularly with respect to design. So we're also exploring having like a on contract, like on-call contract with a design professional who could be used as a resource as well.
Okay. That was my other question. Is there a path that the county is looking at having more of like a consent track review or something where there's a design professional able to review it so that it's not all on the planner to have to make those decisions? So, okay, I think that's all my question. Do you have another question?
This does not involve coastal, does it? The coastal zone, or does it?
SB 9 would apply in the coastal zone.
The coastal zone as well.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. I think the city does it this way. If you want to do other, can you go to design review instead? I mean, if you don't survive the review, the standard, this checklist, can you request to be approved by this board or some other board as an alternative? I know it's a higher requirement, but could the applicant request something like that as an option?
Certainly, if they didn't want to meet the specific standards here, maybe they wanted to propose a larger home than what is permitted under these standards, or they wanted some exception, height exception, setback exception, anything like that or just voluntarily want to go through that process, they're not required to come in under these provisions.
Last question. Are we able to provide comments later on it once we can review it? more, or is this our one chance?
We could conceivably come back another time and, or maybe at the next meeting.
Just for clarity on
Yeah.
whether everyone feels like they have enough time to review it.
Yeah, we could do that.
All right, so we'll move on to public comment, and I have one.
Yeah, we're gonna go into telecom now,
Oh,
and then we can do public comment.
Great, thank you. Okay, so for the telecom small wireless facility projects that would meet these proposed objective design standards, they would be exempt from design review. And these standards would also take place of the BAR design review process. That's kind of the intention. These proposed standards would apply to facilities mounted on structures that are 50 feet or less, located on existing or replacement utility poles, non-pole concealment structures, roof of existing structures vaulted underground or similar. Next slide. Again, an overview of kind of the standards I'm going to be going over. It's going to include stealth concealment, finishes, shrouding, horizontal extensions, accessory equipment. Next slide. So we are proposing that all small wireless facilities be stealth as technically feasible with concealment elements that mimic or blend with the underlying support structure, surrounding environment, and adjacent uses. So for new installations, antennas, associated equipment, etc., shall be fully concealed within the structure. And if concealment is not compatible with the pole design, then it must appear as an integral part of the structure or mounted as close to the pole as technically feasible. Next slide. All cables, wires, and other connectors will need to be routed through conduits within the pole and concealed from public view. And any external conduits or shrouds must be finished to match the underlying pole. Excess cable shall not be spooled, coiled, or stored on the pole's exterior. And then pole-mounted accessory equipment may be installed behind street, traffic, or other signs, but they must be placed in a location that is most concealed. Next slide. All exterior finishes shall be painted, colored, or wrapped in flat, non-reflective hues that will match the underlying support structure, and then also treated with graffiti-resistant sealant. All new poles or structures will need to replicate materials, colors, and finishes of existing infrastructure nearby. And then all replacement poles or structures similarly will need to be of the same material of the existing pole or adjacent poles. Next slide. And then this is an example of a tier 2 project where the antenna canister and shroud is being proposed to match the existing pole's materials and colors. For shrouding, all antennas and associated equipment shall be installed within a single shroud or radome, if feasible. Pole top antennas shall be visually consistent with the design, color, and scale of the underlying pole, as well as not exceed 2.5 times the median pole. For side arm antennas, the shroud must cover the cross arm and any equipment between the vertical riser and the antenna. Next slide. And figure 1, the antenna is concealed within a single shroud or radome with a tapered cable shroud between the antenna and pole top. Under figure 2, it's an example of a pole top antenna on a wood utility pole. Next slide. For horizontal extensions, side mounted antennas are prohibited, but unless they're infeasible, that they shall be placed as close to the support structure as technically feasible. And then they may not extend more than 24 inches above any roadway or abutting private property. For the pole mounted accessory equipment, they must be flush with the pole and then also not exceed, or not extend over any roadway or abutting private property as well. Next slide. And then here are 2 figures. Figure 3 shows shrouded side mounting antenna on a wood pole with horizontal separation. Figure 4 is a pole mounted accessory equipment shroud on a wood utility pole. Next slide. And then all accessory equipment shall be placed underground in an underground utility district or in a location where the director determines that above ground accessory equipment would restrict public rights of way. Equipment shall be installed in load rated vaults with a slip resistant cover if it's beneath the sidewalk. And then within the sidewalk, airflow vents shall be flush to grade and then may not exceed 2 feet above grade. Next slide. And here's an example of flush to grade underground equipment vaults. And lastly, the minimum ground clearance for accessory equipment shall be at least 10 feet above ground level. For orientation, unless behind a street sign or concealment that dictates the equipment orientation on the pole, then all pole mounted accessory equipment shall be in line with the adjacent road or oriented away from the adjacent road when concealed by landscaping or any existing vegetation. Next slide. And that wraps up telecom. Happy to answer any questions or if you have any comments.
Board have any additional questions?
So again, the idea with the telecom is you've over the last 5+ years, you've seen a lot of these types of projects, these small ones that are typically co-located on existing utility poles and things like that. And I know you often struggle with those in terms of your limited ability to provide comment and feedback, and federal and state law have further sort of curtailed our ability to apply discretion. So the idea with these standards is these would take the place of design review for those small wireless facilities. The bigger facilities like the faux monopole, the faux trees and the large towers, those would still be subject to the normal process.
Okay. All right. Is now the time for public comment? Okay. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Laura Bradley. I don't distract.
I will try to do, can you hear me? I will try to do this in 3 minutes. My name is Laura Bradley. I actually serve as the 2nd District Planning Commissioner, but I'm also a planning nerd. Started my career out as a design review staff, so this is bringing me back. Anyway, these are really important standards, I think, and I appreciate staff for pulling stuff together. I am kind of overwhelmed with what it means because from the Planning Commission standpoint, and I'm just representing myself as an individual, the commission hasn't made any kind of discussion of this, but it really came to our forefront a couple months ago when we had an SB 330 case and they were meeting all the objective design standards. And there we were, I'll never forget, I'm looking down the commission there and everyone's blinking saying, so this didn't go to SBAR. And all the neighbors in the room were very concerned about that because you do such an important thing in the planning process and the Planning Commission strongly relies on what you do. I mean, almost always backs up whatever you recommend. So without you in the middle of it and this all shifting over to staff, I appreciate that staff is trying to give us some objective design standards, but in the end, they may not be as prescriptive as anybody in the community wants. And I'm concerned about that. So I don't want to have this rushed. I'd rather you continue it to have a little more discussion about those objective design standards. You might, maybe you even take a case and have a work session with staff to say, okay, here's a proposed lot split that is going to have 4 units on a 10,000 square foot lot. So single family districts are gone. There is really no single family zoning anymore as the state has mandated it. So now you're taking all these single family neighborhoods in those districts that Mr. Tuttle mentioned and creating multi-unit, or R2 zoning. So maybe you want to see an example of it. I would love to see an example of it. So if on my neighborhood on the Mesa, my neighbor of 8,000 square feet is going to come in with a lot split and have maybe 3 units, I'd like to see how the triplex fits on that thing with any open space and not having all the parking in the front yard or on the street. I mean, it's really it's a lot of properties that is going to get caught in this. And without your guys' eyes on it, Planning Commission doesn't see it. It's all staff, and we appreciate staff's effort to do this, but having some sort of link to a professional architect, I think, is critical. And whether it's your consent calendar reviewer or a contract, as Mr. Tuttle mentioned, I'm hoping that that comes forward. The Planning Commission hope to have an agenda item just to discuss how this process is going to go, because it's not just these SB 910, and this isn't on your agenda today, but the SB 330 cases that just got approved through the housing element are going to be, some of those are also going to be through the staff review. So on the telecom process, what can we say about polls, right? And the Planning Commission just had a very difficult appeal that you guys worked at, and probably 3 different locations or 4 locations, and you heard it over the course of 18 months. So I think that staff's recommendations are fine, and it's hard to have any discretion anyway on polls. There was a statement in the standards, and again, I haven't read them verbatim, but staff suggested that there was a standard of that it must be concealed. Well, that's really impossible for a poll, right? How do you really conceal it? Unless, I think maybe was the idea, it was the equipment itself, not the poll. So that was confusing to me. And then there was also a discussion about having certain areas that it couldn't, maybe it's just a typo. They say where it would not restrict or not, it had something to do with the right of way. And the way it was phrased on the PowerPoint thing, it might have been a mistake. I mean, the idea is that these polls should not interrupt the right of way, right? So hopefully I can understand that better. But anyway, that's my feedback.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll come back to comments from the board. I'll start with-
I have one comment on it. I don't see why there would ever be a acceptable reason to put a side-mounted pole 24 inches over somebody's private property. It sets up a weird situation. If there's a pole on a corner of a property and you got an arm hanging into your backyard or something, I find that would be kind of bothersome, so. I'd evaluate whether or not that's necessary. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would have been a good idea to put all this information online so we had the chance to look at it before we came today, because there's a lot to review. There's a lot, a lot. And it seems like the power pole, that's an easier, it's an easier task. It has some details. I'd like to have more time to think about it. But the SB9 information is more complex. I know as an architect, I have applied for SB9 cases in the city, and they have so many conditions. It was absolutely impossible to do it. Finally, we had to backtrack, and they have, frontage width, and they have all sorts of conditions. This seems to be simpler. By the way, I think it's very well done. I mean, I don't criticize that. I think it's very well organized, but I need time to review it. I need at least a week, just to provide a meaningful comment. One thing that jumped out of the view right away is the issue of the 48-inch minimum above finished floor windows facing neighbors, 15 feet. Well, that kind of makes a big dent because, for egress, you need a 42-inch sill height. If you have a bedroom. And a bedroom is, and here you're talking about 15 feet from a neighbor. That's quite a distance, and you need that sill to be 48 inches high. I mean, that makes it kind of, it will not work for egress. So therefore, you cannot have bedrooms on that location. That number should be 42, okay. That's the one I just got, right? But I'm sure there are more of those. And for planners, it's simple. You stamp it and it's all done. And then 2 years later, you have these hidden bombs that explode and creates all sorts of problems design-wise. That's why it's really important to take a look at these provisions, because they stay in. They will not be changed for another couple of years. Now, I just mentioned one, but I'm sure there are others. That's my take.
Any other comments?
Can I have question back to you. With the 42 inches for egress purposes on second story, is that still elevated enough to where it kind of prevents the down?
Yes, well, for the, yeah, yeah, I know the Carpinteria had an issue with yeah, you still could. Carpinteria had an issue, and I'm not sure how they resolved it because they had 5 feet on less than so many. I'm just saying that is especially in SB9 where you want, and you're talking more than ADUs. You're talking about it. Yeah. Anyway, something to study, but it's just a minor comment. 42 means egress. 48 does not.
Yeah, well, before I go, are there any other comments from the board?
Well, just in general, this is really a pretty sweeping attempt to codify many of the points that we bring up all the time, especially with the telecom business. It's these are the common things that we try to accomplish every time we see one of these poles. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, I guess my comment is it's going to be more than I think our board can formulate comments for in this hearing. So can we make a formal request to have a map of the impacted areas that will be considered urban or through the county that would be taken out of our purview for review? And then also send a digital copy of this so that we can review.
Yeah, that'd be fine. And I think I can talk with Karina, but I think we could come back when's your next meeting? 21st?
July 12th.
Oh, July 12th. Yeah. We could probably make that work.
Oh, I'm so sorry. June 21st. June 21st. July 12th is the hearing after that. So June 21st would be our next SBAR date.
Right, anything else? Anything else from you guys?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and we will move on to our agenda. We'll start with the consent agenda items. Okay.
So we look at the consent calendar. We saw the consent calendar this morning. There are 2 items, the pool modification and Danev property at 4178 Creciente Drive, and the 3568 Toro Canyon Park accessory structures, and they were acceptable, and I make a motion to approve both items as submitted.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we will move on to item 1.
Also, if anybody has filled out any speaker slips, if you would please bring those to the front.
Can you pass that down? I know if it's for the first item. John, do you mind passing the speaker slips down to me? Okay, so we'll move on to item 1 of the standard agenda, the Palmer New Residence. The request of Wade Davis Architects for Maya Palmer. They're here for preliminary review of a new 2-story residence of approximately 4,525 square feet with an attached garage, pool cabana, pool and spa. The property is currently vacant and it requires 150 cubic yards of cut and fill. It's a 0.53 acre parcel at 1068 San Antonio Creek Road. And would you like me to read the comments, or do you want to go through one by one?
If you could read the comments,
Okay.
that would be great.
All right. The architectural style is acceptable. The majority of the board finds the project citing mass, bulk, and scale to be appropriate. 1 member finds the mass, bulk, and scale excessive for the site. The project is compatible with the neighborhood. Detailing and choice of materials is excellent. Modulation to break up massing is successful. New site layout is successful. Study tower and consider raising plate height to rise above the roof line, eliminate parking space in the front setback to provide additional landscape screening, study fire pit design, and consider scale of seating in relation to the fire pit. And go ahead and state your name and
Thank you. Akiko Wade Davis, architect.
Jim Davis.
We'll start with addressing, since we have this up, we'll look at materials first, and then we'll address the comments and then go through the rest of the details that we brought today. For the color board, you can see the roof tile color, a muted terracotta color, showing an example of Santa Barbara sandstone for the stone veneer on the project, an integral color plaster in an earth tone, darker stained wood, exposed wood beams and rafters, dark olive green for the wood windows, and some of the iron doors being a traditional black. If we could move to the elevation sheets, which is A30, which should be down about maybe 6 pages. We did restudy this sheet. This is great. We did restudy the massing a bit from the last time we saw you. Previously, the second story had gable roof ends throughout. We've looked at using hips instead to bring down the massing. There's a comment regarding the height of the tower. What we did instead to accentuate the tower, rather than raising the plate height, was change the roof forms to hip roofs around the tower to give that a little bit more prominence and not interfere with the roof forms as much. On the elevations, what we've done is we've outlined the massing of the house that without the ADU. The ADU is the second story element on the right side of the west elevation. So we have shown an outline of that first floor massing, just for reference. The ADU may be a second phase that's later to come. There was some comments regarding the complexity of the forms and the massing last time, specifically on the south elevation. We have studied that more, and we simplified the roof by changing some of the sizing and the wall locations of the structure. I think we'll go through the details to show what we've brought for the preliminary.
Actually, there are no details in this set at this point. We just want to get
Okay.
preliminary. So that's settled, and then we're going to come back. But we do have Katie, the landscape architect here, who can also address, I think there's 2 other comments that need to be addressed. Katie, are you in the?
Yes, I'm here.
go ahead, Katie, with addressing the landscape comments.
Okay, great. If you could just start at the top, keep the beginning. Oh, no, sorry, the beginning of the landscape sheets. You were just there, and I'll quickly walk you through each sheet. Keep going. Here we go. So if you go to the next sheet, nothing has significantly changed. This is just our tree protection plan. Just reminding you that there is existing hedging to the south there, Tacoma, and then we're hedging the whole property for privacy. If you go to the next sheet, lighting, we're just doing simple path lighting, and then in the back patio, some step lights. And if you go to the next sheet, we have the spec sheets. So no uplighting. Go to the next sheet. This is just our irrigation showing we're in compliance with MWELO. If you go to the next sheet, keep going, keep going. So I'll just point out one of the comments was remove parking in the setback. So the one that we were talking about was the one to the south of the page where the back pathway is. Now is a pathway instead of a parking spot there next to the street. So we removed that parking spot. And then the fire pit, if you scroll down a little, was a comment to look at the scale of that, of the spacing of the fire pit. And we are now doing 2 feet instead of 3 feet spacing. So we looked at the scale of that. And this is just in general, our palette. If you scroll up just a little bit, you can see our materials are the same. We've just added more detail, concrete pavers, flagstone, tile, riser, stairs. Keep scrolling down, I'll walk you lastly through planting. So these are just our hardscape details. Keep scrolling down. further details, keep going to the planting sheet. So here's our planting. Nothing has changed significantly here. The trees are the same. We have olives, arbutus. We have palm trees in the front for some vertical massing at the elevations. And in the backyard, we have fruit trees peppered throughout. And if you go to the next sheet, we have images of just the palette in general. Happy to answer any questions. That's it.
Okay, thank you. That concludes your presentation. All
That's
right. We'll come back to questions from the board. Do they have any questions?
Quick question. Katie, did you run the plant list by the fire department by chance? This is,
Not
I assume,
yet.
by fire zone, right? Okay.
Yeah, it is. Not yet.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? We'll move on to public comment. Are any of these for anyone? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience or online?
If anybody would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand in the chat. Seeing none, and we have no request to speak.
Okay, we'll come back to comments from the board. Val, would you like to start? I got to pick on someone.
Can you go back to the elevations? Yeah, that's good. So you now have a combination of hips and gables. Yeah, it's improved. I like what you did around the tower. It almost still feels unbalanced, say on the north elevation, but you know, as far as where you're hipping and where you're cabling, but it's fine.
Comments, John? Any additional comments?
Yeah, I think that when I look at the garage, and what concerns me is that the back out space or your garage is really tight. And where you have the two doors in the same plane, you could make that one door and make it wider, and it would make it a little easier. That's just a suggestion.
We'll go to Chris.
Yeah, I just have the one comment about the palm trees in the plan being in the high fire zone may not be appropriate, especially the kings. They're major fire spreaders if they're not kept. So you might consider an alternative. I think Kentia would probably be okay, but just maybe check in with the fire department on that one.
And Robert?
No comments.
I don't have any additional comments. So does someone want to make a motion for preliminary?
I'll make the motion for preliminary approval as submitted.
Right, all those in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right.
Maybe Joe didn't hear that. So Joe, that's preliminary approval as submitted and returning full board for final.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just noticed that there is a request to speak for one of the consent items, and I'm not sure what happened. I mean, I didn't see it. I missed it. Is the person on this room? No.
So there was a public comment slip that that was missed for item C2, Elizabeth Bates Freed. Oh, okay. Which item is it so I can relabel it? Okay, item 6, I think. Okay, thank you. We just want to make sure we didn't miss it. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 2. The Whitehurst Barn, request of Roderick Britton, agent for John Whitehurst, here for conceptual review of a prefabricated barn with a 1,147 square foot main floor workshop garage with cabana and a second story. The project includes a 1,760 square foot porch and a 1,557 square foot deck. There's an existing 3,194 square foot residence on the property. The project does not require any cut or fill. It's an 11-acre parcel and located at 480 Glen Annie Road in the Goleta Community Plan area. And if you can state your name and give us your presentation.
And I'm John Whitehurst.
Thank you. And is it, you can go ahead and give us your presentation. Thank you. You can go ahead and give your presentation.
So we started this about a year ago. This is a kit made in Nebraska. They make, half a dozen projects or structures. John contacted me about a year ago. Let's build this. So we submitted, we got caught between the box and the Acela changeover. So we lost the project. But anyway, we submitted and I got a call in early December saying that this package comes as a 47-foot barn. I was told it had to be 35. So contacted the folks in Nebraska. They said, just redraw it and we'll make it work. So we did that. And then subsequently, I got another call saying that as of December 7th, we're under the 16-foot hillside ridge line ordinance. So that kills the project. So through some meetings and teleconferences, Olivia Beers and a couple other people, they suggested we submit this and let us know what you think. 11 acres, no neighbors, nobody can really see. Also, the original house is somehow built without a garage and the cabana. So we're providing garage and a cabana as part of this workshop 80.
So are you requesting a modification or a
Yeah,
variance?
we're trying to exceed the 60.
The height limit, okay.
Okay, site plan, there's the access to the house, existing house south of the dark square, the 3,200 square foot house. The next one is the plans for it. It's a heavy timber structure, 8x8 columns all the way around, big ass porches and a big deck on the second floor. The downstairs, we've tried to provide a little cabana to serve the pool area. Part of that, we have to remove that door that works into the workshop garage. Upstairs, and that's about it. Big old square building. Next sheet, please. As part of this, we have to permit the building first, and then this is the height restriction. Convert the studio at a second permit down the road once the building is structured. The square on that building will be the ADU. I don't know why. That's what we're doing. That's what we're told to do. You can go to the elevations. Next sheet.
For clarity, so you're getting the whole structure permitted now and then you're going to do an ADU conversion?
Yes.
Okay.
This is what I provided to the very central structure. The added windows and doors to get it porch.
Sorry, would you mind speaking into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Yep.
We've changed the windows and fenestrations and the doors to accommodate our use and our future use. So, huge porches, two on the top porches, they're covered. And then of course, all downstairs on the deck, they're all covered. Next sheet. More of the same. And those are some sections to it. Lots of wood. And then these are the drawings from the pre-manufacturer guys.
What's the exterior finish?
It'll be party board and batten. There's some board and batten on the existing house. We'll try and match up to.
And the roof would be a metal roof, standing seam metal roof.
Standing seam metal roof, LVR.
And the walls are board and batt, right? Like board and batt, like a Hardy board and a Hardy trim. Yeah, yeah. And the windows,
They'll be aluminum clad.
Mm. okay. And the railings will be wood then? Yeah.
Depending on fire department, yes. We're early, so we'll
That's right.
all the code issues eventually. We're just trying to get it built. Sure. So away on the left side is Glen Annie Road. He's got a long and winding road up to his property. And then where you can see where the proposed barn is, and then the house below that, and then below that is a bunch of asphalt parking. That's where the cars park right now. So we'd like to move them, go along to the east side of the property and pull into the barn. Put the cars underground, or yeah, undercover, I should.
Have you done any view corridor studies to see if it's visible from Glen Annie or Foothill? Or sorry, Cathedral Oaks there, right?
Not see it from Glen Annie.
Okay.
And if you look really hard when you're going along Cathedral Oaks, you'll be able to pick it up.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I have a just kind of technical question. If you go to the elevations, one of the drawings shows the rake as 4 foot, very long rakes, like that one, which is like the rakes on the gable ends, like about 4 feet. The other drawings show them as 2 feet. Do you know which one it is?
We proposed 4 feet for protect those windows a little bit.
Like the ones like right there, right? Yeah, yeah.
Better story windows.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Try to shade.
And just a yeah, silly question, but the clear stories, the design looks a little bit odd. Do you have like a king post holding the ridge beam, or what's going on there?
Those windows, placement of the windows is driven by the structure from.
Mhm.
So that's.
Okay, all right, thanks.
What is the height?
I believe it's 37 and a half.
And your plate heights are 12 feet down, lower?
2 sheets down, or 1 sheet down. Sections, one more. Zoom in there, there's the plate heights. And some of these are driven by the manufacturer.
Well, I wonder, could that, those plate heights be reduced? Couple of feet? I mean, it's really.
Sorry, if we could just speak into the microphones, guys. They're just.
I mean, have you considered reducing the plate heights? And it's way over the height limit, you know?
Yeah. It's downstairs, a little difficult because of the heavy timber construction. There's a big old beam that runs the whole length of the building. That's 7.5 for headroom. So that's the limiting factor downstairs. We could possibly, I'd have to talk to those folks in Nebraska about lowering the second floor plate height to 10 or 9 or something like that. But, you know, 36, 10.5, it's not going to make a huge difference, but we can do it.
Well, I think that you should look into that. And what color are you proposing to paint this thing? Which is what?
There's
It's a green, a light green. The house,
Green?
a green, yes. And the house is a ranch style house built in 2003. It looks older than it is. It was designed to look like a ranch. The previous owners were the screenwriters for a movie, and they incorporated the ranch from that movie into this house. So it has a lot of history to it, even though it's not an old house. And I wanted this to look like a barn, because it goes very well with the ranch house. And it started originally as a pool house because I have a pool and I had no idea how much storage you need for a pool, floaties and umbrellas and all kinds of stuff like that. Plus the house had no garage. And so that's how this whole project got started. And then the idea of an ADU was actually, I think, the county's idea, was why not we add that as long as we're doing this other thing.
All right, so we'll move on to public comment and then we can, because some of our questions are leading the comments, I think. So we'll do public comment and come back to comments from the board. Do we have anyone in the audience or online? I don't think we have any speaker slips for this item.
Is there anybody online that would like to speak on this item? 24 BAR-00051 Whitehurst Barn? Seeing none?
Okay.
I think it would be a good idea to bring some photos of existing building.
Are some photos on,
Do we have
SP1.
the rendering for that they did on this?
that one there.
No, the photo. I mean,
But if we go to the very top of the project,
they did a really nice rendering of this barn. It looks quite nice.
one more. So you can see the existing house there on the second row.
And I think Chris had one more question as well.
Yeah, I was just curious. It looks like the barn is sort of behind the house and going up the ridge. What's the finished floor elevation of the residence versus the barn?
It'll be almost flush.
Same.
See, there's just happens to be a large flat area there.
Okay.
So that's the way we got away with no kind of fill.
Okay. So 1-story house, 2-story barn behind. Okay. Thanks.
And the views are spectacular. That's part of the reason for the deck around the outside. It's a beautiful place.
All right, so we'll start with comments. Start with Alex.
I'm sympathetic to this project. I like to see a little bit more of maybe more finished drawings, better. I'm not sure if it's too tall or not. It seems a little bit excessive, but then on the other hand, who sees it and why it's unusual. The height is unusual. I got that. But it's a barn. It does look like a barn. So I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'm sympathetic to the project in general. I'm not sure about the colors. I'd like to know more about the colors and materials. The clerestories, which are going to be the more visible part, are a little bit odd. I wish you could do something with that. Some to make them a little bit more standard, what one would expect of the barn. Those are my comments.
John?
The only thing I'm concerned about is the relationship to the grade, and it's such a high building. Is it going to be visible from, the road? And
Really not, you cannot see the house from the road even. And you won't be able to see it. It's an avocado ranch, and there's avocados all along the road. For one thing, you can't see 10 feet away, and you can't see the hill even. So it's not visible. The closest neighbor I had is about a mile away on another hill, and the house will look, or the barn will look about like that.
Well, I think that barns they're a great form of architecture, and that you should work towards enhancing that. So to me, that means not matching the color of the house, but having it really be barn-like. And I think you could spend some more time on the windows and doors, because those elevations, you've kind of got one of every kind. There's some double hungs, there's some small breakups, big breakups, those big clear stories. I think you should really work on trying to organize that and make it more aesthetic. I think you could lower the plates a bit and still have the feeling that you want inside. But I think to be able to go this much over the height, it needs to really look like an intrinsic barn. And there are barns that are, I mean, they are able to exceed the heights of other buildings when they're really a barn. This is going to have multi-purposes to it. So we have to work with that feature, that it's not strictly a barn. But the more you make it look like a traditional agricultural building, the better it'll be. So darker colors, maybe more natural looking wood finishes, and do everything to organize the windows into an aesthetic composition that doesn't look like you're filling in between heavy timber structures.
Can I show you this photo? I thought we had that.
Oh, that photo.
It
Let me show them.
sort of means less
That's a
glazing.
rendering from.
Email
from
that
the-
to me and I
the
can put it on the
manufacturer.
screen. Email it to me. Martin J.
Okay, we'll move on to comments. Sorry, Chris, did you give comments yet? Okay, we'll move on to Chris.
I mean, we were just looking at this on the Google Earth Street View, and you can kind of see the house a little bit. And
In the
so,
barn, you're going to be able to see it.
yeah, and so that's going to be an extra story on top. So yeah, so I think additional photos might be helpful. And also if, you know, if it is granted, then maybe planting some trees along the western side of the house may be appropriate to help screen that further from the road.
So did you catch that? We'd like more photos from public roads.
From Glen Annie, because you can kind of see it a little bit. You can see the house, the top of the house from Glen Annie, and then if you add that extra story of the barn, then you're definitely seeing that. So maybe some screening element tree. Hold on a second, sir. Screening on the west side with some trees may help to mitigate that view into the site from Glen Annie. That's my only comment.
Okay, and Robert?
Yeah, we were looking at it on Google here, and it looks like driving down the road, you can kind of see the house, but I also see that you have a house that's in a huge lot that has orchard all around it, and I don't really see that there's like a problem with proposing your structure. I think it fits the style of your property, and if anything, I think it kind of fits into the rural quality of what the property is. But I would suggest that to get this, you know, moved through this board, I think you might help if you get on Google Earth and type in your address where you can see where you're driving down the road. I mean, it's tough for me to illustrate it right here, but you guys should try to like maybe present some kind of an exhibit that shows how the barn's going to sit relative to the visibility of the house so that the board can help understand it given the context of the property here. And I think that'll probably help you with the process. Yeah, but
I was actually going to make a comment about that. I think at least, well, I would suggest in my comment that we at least story pull the front ridge line that's visible from Cathedral Oaks, unless the board feels like we need a full story pulls, but that's going to be the visible face so that we can see the context of what's visible. And then, well, so if I'm understanding it correctly, it's the ridge line is running north-south. So you'll see the front peak most prominently from Cathedral Oaks, and it'll most likely be screened from Glen Annie. But either way, we'll be able to see that pole we can do a site visit and see it from both locations. That would be one comment. And then I agree that it's a structure that fits on this property. The site plan being so zoomed out and hand-drawn, I think is a little hard to understand the site planning, and it looks in this site plan that it's very close to the main house with such a massive structure. So I think just a little bit more detailed site plan when you come back so that we can kind of understand how they connect and why it needs to be so close. All right, any other comments? Oh, okay, we'll hold it open for a moment if it can come through. But you can also come back with your renderings, so. And it's just here for conceptual, so we'll see.
See if
Yeah. It's probably a big file. Okay, well, we'll see it when you come back. All right, thank you both.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. It can be slash prelim, yeah. Yeah, for the conceptual slash prelim. Okay, move on to item 3, McQueen 4-car garage, request of Crystal Chan and Michael Ober, agent for Brent and Marie McQueen, here for preliminary and final review of a 4-car garage of 877 square feet that will be constructed below an ADU. There's an existing 2-story, 4-bedroom, single-family residence, 2-car garage, and residence totaling 2,663 square feet on the property. The project requires no cut or fill. It's on a 0.23 acre parcel located at 6776 Del Playa Drive in Isla Vista. Is the applicant online? Crystal Chan and Michael Ober.
I do not see them online.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
All right, before we move on, is the applicant from Becker Studios here for item 4? Not me, we're not even ahead of schedule today.
See Becker Studios online and Valley Heart Ranch. Becker Studios, are you guys available to present?
All right, oh, it's misnumbered on here. Is there not an item 5? Jonathan, the one I'm looking at.
The numbering.
Which one are you looking at? Which one is item 5?
Yeah.
Hello?
So Padaro is item.
Hi. Of Valley Heart Ranch.
Okay, all right, so we'll move on to item 4 while we wait for the applicant for item 3 to come online. So item 4 is Valley Heart Ranch alterations at the request of Becker Studios, agent for Valley Heart Ranch, here for conceptual review of a renovation of an existing building shell, ADA upgrades, renovation of a coffee bar, restaurant, retail shop, new trash area, 734 square foot addition to an existing structure, a new patio and trellis, landscaping at totaling 3,466 square feet. There is an existing 2,732 square foot structure on the site in the shed. And the proposed structure requires no cut or fill. It's a 0.12 acre parcel located at 2275 Ortega Ridge Road in the Summerlin area. Is the applicant online?
Yeah, Daryl Becker here with Becker Studios for Valley Heart Ranch.
Hi, Daryl. There is a planner memo, so we'll show that on the screen and summarize it, and then we'll have you present. Let's see.
Excellent. Okay.
So it's stating the Summerlin commercial design guidelines. We'll focus on the standards that reflective material should be avoided for roof material. Colors need to be appropriate, complement the surrounding area. Colors for the body of the structure should complement the architecture and add the unique character of the commercial core. The BAR may specify an LRV if there's concern regarding visibility and compatibility along Ortega Hill Road and other roads, but this is on Ortega. Do you want to scroll down? Yeah, that'll be part of public comment, right? Sorry, consider a variety of colors and with tones of blues, yellows, grays, and other hues. rather than, okay, non-distinctive. Beiges and browns, primary colors should be avoided. Distinction should be made between colors used in the commercial core versus residential areas. Colors should be used to visually reduce the size, bulk, and scale of the building, and windows and doors should be slightly recessed from the facade of the structure to provide a shadow line. Can you scroll down and see if there was any more specific planner comments?
Want a variance.
Okay. So the project is requiring or requesting a variance to allow the proposed commercial building to be located in the front and rear setbacks of the property. The proposed building will be 0 feet from the property line rather than the required 15-foot setback, and 0 from the rear property line rather than the required 10% lot of depth rear setback. They are also requesting to allow demolition. Oh no, that's just the project description that we already read. Grading will be less than 50 cubic yards. No trees are requested for removal. Let me see if there's nothing. Do you mind scrolling down? That's it, I think. Okay, so the applicant, you can restate your name and please give us your presentation.
Okay, great. Daryl Becker with Becker Studios for Valley Heart Ranch. We're presenting 2275 Ortega Hill Road. This is at the corner of Evans Road and Ortega, and it's a block away from Lilly. So people familiar with Summerlin, Lilly turns into Ortega a block away. This is directly adjacent the Point gas station to the south. In other words, the Point gas station's to the south. And if you'll take us to the second sheet. This is the existing building, often referred to as a Red Kettle or Tinker's building. It's an old seaside shingle style building in real disarray and condition. And if you'll take us to the next sheet, 3. This gives you an idea where we are located. We're directly across from the Sandpiper Liquor Store. Caddy corner to the west is the C image, which is Ortega Hill Road and Evans. That's the post office across the street. And then directly below that in image E is looking towards the east, back towards Summerlin Cafe. And if you'll scroll down a little bit, we can bring the other. Correct. So the gas station to the left is image F. And from the coffee cafe looking east, you'll see the ADA parking lot. And then behind us, directly behind this property is, of course, the freeway and the freeway right-of-way. The intention of the project is a reinterpretation. This is not a demo of the building, where the goal of the renovation was to rehabilitate the building and address ADA accessibility. We're re-envisioning the building as sort of a contemporary seaside agrarian vernacular, not unlike the Guard building and Mary Suiting Antiques, which are about a block and a half away. But we're doing it in a coastal style. So the inspirational images or finished board, if you will, is the next sheet, 4. You'll scroll up, please. This gives you kind of an idea of the material board. So the roof is intended to be a matte dark finish. Currently proposed, we're proposing sort of a charcoal stain on the wood siding. The intention is that it's not board and bat, it's bat. So these would be like 1 by 14, 1 by 12 vertical siding material. We'd be using steel and or extruded metal storefront finishes. The lighting would be more contemporary. We have in the lower right corner ideal or a stylization of that type of lighting, very subtle. And then our concrete work would probably just be sand finish concrete on the building. If you'll take us to the next sheet, I'll give you an idea of the original concept. So this is the original concept study on the building. The intention right now, or what's occupying the building right now is we have a coffee cafe. It's on the south side of the building. On the right-hand side is the old Tinkers, and they're currently in operation there. And then we have two other retail operations. They're the Bikini Factory. I think they've been there 30 or 40 years. And then we have another women's retail clothiers. And behind the building where we're showing our ADA restrooms now, that was an extension of the Tinkers building towards the freeway. And we did a study and we figured that, it makes a lot of sense to open the front to the back, providing common seating for dining both in the Tinkers space or that restaurant space and then the coffee cafe. And so that's the intention of this. And then this is just an elevational study based on the existing building. If you'll take us to the next sheet. So this is the direction of the style of the architecture that we're working in. If you roll up just a little bit, sort of the lower, I think the lower two buildings do a better job. Yes, there. And then we can go to the site plan, which is the next sheet. So we have existing and proposed. So one of the important elements about the existing site is that we're pushed out and encroaching in the front yard setback. So in the description from the planner, it says that we need to get a variance. Part of what we're doing is studying how the building actually exists in the first place and understanding, how that occurred. Anyway, the front of the building is at the sidewalk line. There's very little landscape. The businesses have created little patios connecting the businesses to the sidewalk, all of which is appropriate, but it's all in the county road right of way. And so if you go to the next sheet, I'll take you to So I'll take you to the existing first floor plan, which shows essentially the site plan, and then the lower proposed floor plan. We've dash marked in red the existing footprint. And so overall at the front of the building, right where the current Tinkers building is, we're proposing to push out to the sidewalk line approximately 65 square feet. In the back of the building, we're proposing to take down the shed dining room and then an addition off the back of the Bikini Factory. And we're going to consolidate those square footages into the restrooms and then open up the yard space outside the back of the building towards the freeway for open outdoor patio. So the overall plan calls for an addition of approximately 300 square feet, I think it's 360 square feet of new square footage, some of which is in the second floor loft above the restaurant space. So if you go to the next sheet, we'll take you through that. So right now on the second floor, there's a loft space above the kitchen. And our intention is to use the volume of the building there to maintain an office space for the restaurant. And you'll get an idea just looking at this, the inside space versus the outside space and sort of the expansion of the volume of the building. If you'll take us to the next plan. This is an overall roof plan. And then the next sheet, please. So this is the front elevation or the north elevation of the building. On the left-hand side, that is the existing Red Kettle Coffee. The middle section of the building is the Bikini Factory. The center section is the restaurant space. And then the right part of the building, or north part of the building, is the other retail operation. Next sheet will take us to the east elevation. So from the parking lot looking towards the coffee cafe, On the left is the existing, sorry, on the top is the existing, on the bottom is the proposed east elevation. And then the next sheet, this is the rear of the building facing the freeway. And the next sheet is the westerly elevation as proposed. And then we go to some renderings if you'll scroll down. So this is a rendering of the building from the northeast. The next rendering is, I'm sorry, this is northeast, the other one is northwest. And then you'll go ahead and scroll down again. This is the rear patio we're envisioning. And then the next image is the same rear patio from a northerly vantage looking easterly. I'm sorry, a westerly looking easterly. So that's essentially the presentation. We don't have a landscape plan. We just onboarded a landscape architect. We expect to be working on that. We wanted to come to you guys today and try to get some concept approval and direction. We did meet with the Summerlin Architectural Review Board Advisory Committee. They have some comments about, their comments to us were that they wanted us to try to engage the street more. I think from a historical perspective, there's been this engagement, these patios out in front of the building, connecting the street. And I think that the goal of doing that is quite good. If you'll take us back to, let's go back to the front or the north elevation of the building, A313. No, I'm sorry, that's the rear. If you'll up more, 2 more sheets, sorry, right there. So their discussion with us was, you know, can we put patios out in the front of the building? And, you know, so this common area between the coffee bar and the restaurant is intended to be shared dining space. And we have that opening up towards the freeway and the patio in the back, which is towards the sun elevation. And the goal here was to engage the street with glass and steel. But they've asked us if we would consider connecting that, either adding doors or more window fenestration at the front of the building. And then they were concerned about the dark color of the building. And really then all we talked about was the massing of the structure in terms of the volume on the right side of the building. If you'll go 2 more sheets down, it'll be the westerly elevation. 1 more sheet, I'm sorry, there. Plate from left side plate to right side plate, there was a discussion about the mass of this elevation. And so they were asking us to take a look at that to see if we could shrink up that volume a little bit, which the way to do that would be to have it break and shed towards the freeway. And that's something we can obviously take a look at. See, really nothing else to add. We're pretty excited about the building. The building needs to be completely renewed. It's in not too wonderful shape, but we're really excited about it.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to questions from the board.
What's the height of the building versus the existing?
Good question. So
25.
we have all of that called out on 311. The existing building is at I'm sorry, 18 feet 6 inches, 18 feet 6 inches, and the new proposed max height is at 2410. And so that's on the section where it says restaurant, that's at 2410. The allowed height is 25. On the left-hand side, the proposed elevation is at 23.5, and the existing is at I believe 1710.
Okay.
I have a question. Is the reason for the steeper roof pitch from existing functional for the interior of the second story, or is it just for the aesthetics of the front facade?
It's primarily aesthetic, but it does weigh into the volume of the office space upstairs. You know, it's both.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, we'll move on to public comment. We do have we have a letter from the Summerlin Board of Architectural Review and then one speaker. So I'll read the letter first. Dear Esbar, overall, we support this project to include the Nordic seaside design with the following exceptions. Their unanimous concerns are the exterior dark color is too dark and concerning. Please consider lighter, softer weathered tones. And the parking balance is too low. Other concerns, they'd like to see more permeability of the treatment of the windows and doors along the north side to engage the public edge more, and the reduction of the second floor in width and height for more streetscape compatibility. And they appreciate our consideration. And then we'll move on to the speaker slip. Tom Evans, you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm here speaking for myself, but I was also a member of the advisory committee both times we had our community plan, and I'm really speaking for the policies in the community plan. Unfortunately, the Summerland Board, in times past, we would have had a vigorous local discussion, open meeting about this project. And currently, the Summerland Board does not have public meetings, nor do they notice the meetings. So there was no opportunity for anybody to make comments to them. And I think they may have, I generally agree with the comments with a couple of exceptions. So I just want to give you that little introduction. The Seacoast style is supposed to be more of a West Coast interpretation of Seacoast and that seaside. And I'll read you the description in the guidelines. Seaside, this style is defined as any informal wood architectural traditionally associated with coastal communities on the East Coast of the United States, historically based on general colonial architecture between the period of 1830 and 1860. The more recent association is often referred to as Cape Cod. However, the intent of these guidelines is to encourage a much broader interpretation reflecting a West Coast influence. This style of architecture is defined by the following, and then it gives some detail, which I don't have time to read, I don't think. So we were trying to have that Seacoast look, but not necessarily Cape Cod. We wanted it to be basically what would have been here before, you know, the older buildings. And they were basically seaside, Victorian and bungalow, the ones that, you know, we wanted to favor. So anyway, that's the first point. The floor area ratios, this building was built prior to the FARs. It was in the C2 zone, highway commercial zone at the time. That's why its setbacks are such as they are. And it's about twice what the FAR would allow now. You could have about 1,400 square feet on this lot, which would probably not be a bad idea, because then you could have a parking lot that would give you adequate parking. But anyway, it's about double that. But the applicant is proposing another 700 square feet or so. And the ordinance is very clear on buildings that were over the FAR. We had a whole list of them, you know, the ones that were when we did the guidelines. You can build up to what you have, and you can reconfigure the building, but you can't increase the square footage. Now, he's proposing, there's some pretty significant increases if you really study these plans. So that is really an issue that I don't think there's any variances or any way for him to get around that.
Please wrap up. That's your 3 minutes.
I would really like some more time if possible. Stuff is important. This is, you know.
A lot of public comment today, so if you could wrap it up in a couple sentences.
Okay, the scale of the building is over the traditional, there's gable proportions that are favored. There should be 12 to 18-foot gables to kind of replicate the smaller buildings in Summerland, or at least be in scale with them. A good example of a building that is large but has smaller gables to help bring it down is the Just Folk building, the one with the underground parking that was built not too long ago. And I think a corrugated roof would be historically more correct rather than the standing seam. Is just in the park, the Seaside Oil Company used to be headquartered there, and they had all these corrugated buildings. And the other building I just referred to has a corrugated roof also. And it's just a more correct look for old coastal, his California architecture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comment. All right, is there any other speakers online for public comment?
If anybody else would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the chat. If you are calling in, please raise your hand with the *6 feature and then press *9 to unmute.
Anybody?
Seeing none?
All right, we'll close public comment on this item and we'll move on to comments from the board. We'll start with Alex.
Well, I find the building very appealing, a very nice interpretation of a barn or a renovation of a barn, and I don't have any qualms with it. I read all the letters, and I tend to agree with the Summerland Architectural Board review that says that the dark color is too dark. Maybe there's something to it, but I do agree with the standing seam roof, the type of windows that they're using. It would be appropriate to recess so those windows are not completely flush. I'm not sure what the detail they're thinking of, like a screen or a rain screen or what, but it would be nice so the windows are not completely flush with the face of the walls. But I find it very, very handsome. And I would like to see it to remain as more or less as is. That's my opinion.
John?
Well, I agree with Alex's comment. I think the architecture and the geometry of it is appropriate and really interesting. I think that obviously has come up again and again that the dark color exaggerates the mass too much, and I think the building's too large. It's too high, actually. And if you could restudy that and somehow lower the plates or reduce the mass in that sense. But the overall impression is very positive. That's it.
And Val?
Well, I guess I feel kind of strongly about it in a different way. I think this is one of the most important building locations for downtown Summerland, and that this does not feel in keeping with the character that Summerland has attempted to direct for itself for many years. To me, that shows up in this kind of contemporary agrarian style that to me doesn't fit with the beachside style that should be the direction for this. And I think that there's, there have been other examples of satisfactorily modifying into a more contemporary look. But this feels out of scale to me. And the dark color exaggerates it. I think the dark color is really not good. And I feel the standing seam roof isn't really right for it because it just goes in a different direction. I also agree with the comments from Summerland Board that that it should engage with the street more. It should engage with the public on the sidewalk. This is a very walkable town. And even though it's right against the freeway, that there's plenty of opportunity to walk right there. And yet this doesn't present to that. So I have a lot of concerns that this is a great opportunity for an important corner, but that this could be, it could be in Malibu. It doesn't feel like Summerlin. So I think there should be more of an effort to bring it back to the beachside cottage vernacular that Summerlin's downtown is trying to achieve. Yeah.
So because this is here for, I'll just chime in for a sec, because this is here for conceptual, we're not making a motion today. I think if we can just make it, if we have different opinions, we won't do a straw vote today. We'll wait until we're here for preliminary. All right, Chris?
I would just echo what Val said. I mean, I think its location is probably one of the most important locations in Summerlin, and yeah, so I'm not going to add anything. I think Val summed it up nicely.
Robert?
Could you go to 0.4, which is kind of like the character elevations? So I'm generally in support of your project, but I think that the character that's represented in your initial renderings kind of might help if you could maybe aimed a little bit more towards this. And I think some of the quality that might be captured here that is lost in where it's gone is that there's a lighter color to the building. The roof forms don't read as prominent from the street frontage. And then another, I think, yeah, and also the windows kind of fit better. They don't read as prominently. So I would encourage you to study the character elevation and maybe try to capture some of the qualities of that in what you're proposing. And then another opportunity that I feel is kind of missed here is that potentially flipping the uncovered space that's on the back of the building and bringing it towards the street frontage would help to engage your building with the neighborhood there, because it'd be really nice to like sit on a patio out front the building and look out at all the people moving through the space. And right now, the building kind of feels, I don't know, it feels like a little too industrial, and I think you need to maybe, study how you bring in like the human quality of this building to the front of it, and that might be by potentially opening up the uncovered and covered spaces so there's a little bit more like interaction with the street, which kind of feels like that's what Summerlin is identifying. And then also, yeah, I think just proposing a lighter color material. I mean, the shingles that are on that existing building I think it kind of captures what the area is, and maybe try to find something that feels like it brings in some of the quality of the existing building there. And you got Tinkers there. This is kind of a special spot for the people in the area. So I think you're heading in the right direction, but there's some room to capture what you got here in this drawing. So.
All right. I have no additional comments. The one comment that was said that I feel strongly about is that connection with the common area. I think it could be so engaging with the street if it is opened up. And I like the preservation and opening up of more of the interior common spaces. But one question I should have had in the questions period. So are you relying on off-site improvements to have landscape in the front of the structure? Daryl?
Well, most of the landscape is in the right of way, but we will be addressing the landscape around the perimeter of the building. We're not changing, we're not removing any trees or anything like that, but we are intending to meet with roads. We wanted to get some feedback here from this board We've gotten feedback from the planner, and our next step is to meet with roads and talk to them, because the existing, there's existing forest spaces on site. And the policies of roads, the policy of the Summerlin plan aren't necessarily congruent with what exists there. And so we need to sort that out before we start our landscape plan.
Okay, so my comment would just be to show your offsite proposed improvements too when you come back for landscaping so we can see how it integrates.
Understood.
Something, Madam Chair.
One more comment.
Yeah, can you go back to the rendering, please? After hearing my colleagues, I agree with, they have some very good points regarding the what the Summer Association calls the permeability or opening to the street. It's true, there are no doors facing the street, and that is really concerning, and all the action happens in the back. I think my colleagues have a very good point about pushing the building back, bringing the people to the front, interacting with Summerland, the street. I would like to support that. I'd like the style. I think I like the strength of the building, but those are two clear flaws that I would like to address.
Right. I do want to clarify, Alex, thank you, but those are door systems at the coffee bar and the restaurant. I think the comment I'm picking up from Summerlin and also here today is possibly that common center area, which is walled and landscape, to possibly open that area up. But the streetscape engagement is that's a door system at the coffee bar and the restaurant. You enter on both sides, but we certainly can connect the building to the street better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
also that uncovered space on the back of the building, you're facing the freeway, and flipping that orientation, you potentially could have all your guests looking out into where they want to, which is a frontage going right through the middle of town. So, yeah.
Okay, Joe, do you need any help with the notes, comments? This is a lot.
Madam Chair, I think I have a good gist, but I'm happy to read them back. I'm still kind of massaging them since there was a lot, but we can.
That's okay. We
go
can
over what I
review them
have,
when you
if that's
when you send them out. I just want to make sure you could hear all of us since it was a little conversational. Okay, so
Thank you.
this was just here for concept, so we'll see when you return. Further conceptual slash prelim or just further conceptual?
Thank you.
Further conceptual.
Okay, return for further conceptual this time. Thank you. And we need to jump back to item 3 if the applicant's here. And we just got a request to continue item 6, which we have a lot of public comment here and people present here to speak today. And so, we'd have to make a motion to approve that continuance. And I don't know if the planner is here or if the applicant, well, yeah, if the planner is here.
The planner is here. He is available to take questions on the continuance as well and kind of explain what happened as well. This was very last minute.
I think it would be at least worth having the planner speak because I know it's a hardship for people to get here for public
Definitely.
comment, and there's many.
Item 6,
Item six.
Nazarian
Yeah, so before we
addition,
move on to-
24 BAR-0058. Oh,
Yeah.
or 7, I'm sorry.
Nazarian.
It's Nazarian.
Yeah, so if the planner could give us their explanation for why it's being requested for a continuance.
Yeah, hi, this is Kevin De Los Santos, the planner here. The agent had tried to submit plans last minute yesterday that I guess had some revisions to the previous plan set. I informed them they can't submit that soon ahead of the deadline. And then they notified me just this morning that they want to request a continuance. I understand there's a number of public commenters that want to speak to the project. So I'm available to address anything regarding the continuance or any comments on the site plans if the board wants to hear the item.
Does anyone on the board want to make a motion to allow it to continue, or do we want to hear it from the planner and allow the public comment?
I think we should continue.
Allow the
this,
continuance?
But otherwise, the applicants are not going to be here, and
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate that.
Yeah, because it just missed the window on when we normally notice the.
How many people are here in the audience?
Question to the planner, is there an option to hear public comment as general public comment from those that are here so that it's on the record for this item when they return?
Joe, maybe you could help me out with that, but I don't see why we could not hear the public comment.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so
we're all here.
the item is agendized. And so it is up to the board to decide whether or not you want to proceed forward without the applicant. Is anyone from the applicant team online?
No, no one from the applicant team is available.
Okay, so I mean, obviously the proceeding forward with an applicant presentation isn't possible, but the board could hear public comment on the item.
Madam Chair.
We can't hear public comment.
Yeah, I would suggest that we just sort of leaf through the plans really quick to get a sense of the project, even though most of us, I'm sure, have already looked at it, and then take public comment. So
Yeah, I just want to make sure we were allowed to procedurally. So, has everyone been able to review it online? Okay, then
You want to jump to item 6?
well, I don't know if we should formally show it on the screen because we're not hearing it formally, right? I think we should just take public comment.
It's agenda.
Joe? Are we able to
Sorry.
show it on the screen if we're not allowing
Okay,
the
yeah.
applicant to present it?
And we'll
Yeah,
just-
I would suggest that you just take public comment on it rather than reviewing the plans.
Okay, all right, we'll proceed with that. I've not run into this. yet,
Okay.
the Chair, I'm sorry. I apologize.
We are currently taking public comment on item number 6 right now.
All right, and we have several speaker slips for speakers in the audience. Do we have any online, just so I have a?
If anybody is online for item number 6, Nazarian Edition 24 BAR-00058, please raise your hand, or if you are calling in, press star 6 on.
Yeah, now we are out of order. And we took it because
Yeah, that's why.
okay, we're going to take public comment for item 6, then we're going to go back to going back in order.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll begin with Lawrence Dunnard, representing himself for item 6. Yes, yes, we'll move on to Elizabeth Bates Freed.
Just let me thank you so much for letting us up here because it is, it means a lot to us and it's hard to get here away from work. So thank you. Dr. Dware is going to give you the statistics that you need to understand the scope of this proposed addition. And I hope to offer you perspective on the impact, environmental and aesthetic, that this would have on this uniquely beautiful but fragile canyon. I feel that we are all visitors to Toro Canyon and always will be. And as such, we need to tread lightly. My husband and I moved to Toro Canyon 8 years ago from a lovely, historic, but crowded Riviera neighborhood where we could hear the mission bells. We were drawn to the canyon's peaceful and unspoiled setting. We learned that this pastoral ambiance is no coincidence, but a reflection of the wise and thoughtful Toro Canyon plan, which sought to preserve forever the unique character of the natural environment of ancient oaks, abundant wildlife, and healthy streams by ensuring that homes would complement, not dominate, the scenic corridor. Our home at 3,100 square feet on a 1-acre lot is reflective of this intention, tucked back from the street with a footprint that respects the need for the flora and fauna of the region to thrive. As designed, this proposed home and structures totaling 10,960 square feet would loom over the entire block, undermining the creek view from Torito Road and towering over the curve of Toro Canyon Road as it passes our home. Please consider how the size, bulk, and scale of this project would conflict with the Toro Canyon plan and the preservation of the natural allure of this precious, environmentally sensitive setting. Furthermore, we want to reiterate that this homeowner recently violated county codes by grading without a permit on the banks of a creek that is flooded in the recent past. He then ignored a stop work order prominently posted at the site, which we could see daily from our lower gate. Every weekend, without fail, the bulldozers would rev up and he would continue to grade. We therefore have no confidence that this massive project would be completed following county and state guidelines, including decisions of this board concerning design parameters, construction safety, environmental protections, grading, and setbacks. We have no objection to the Nazarian family updating their home and adding a reasonable amount of square footage, so long as the project more appropriately conforms to our neighborhood and its quietly beautiful environments. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to David Freed. Oh,
Are you David Freed?
No, I'm Lawrence Dwart. Should I come up, Jonathan, or wait? I'm the next speaker.
It just came out of, it went out of line because you were outside, so we go into the
No, I
next
was-
person.
okay, go
Can I
ahead.
speak next?
Yes,
Is that okay?
yeah, Lawrence Dunright, you have 3 minutes.
Lawrence Dwart, good.
We have 3
Going to
minutes.
give us 1 second to set up here. Jeff, let's put it here. I didn't know the layout here. Thought it'd
Okay.
be close, but you should have each 8.5 by 11. Hold on.
Yes, video.
You can follow along.
All right,
I'll be able to-
I'll begin your 3 minutes.
Give me a second. Get this up. Good. Good. As I said, I'm Dr. Lawrence Dwart, and I want to thank you for letting us speak today. I especially want to thank Jonathan, who on short notice has been just fantastic, helping us out. My wife and I have lived here 30 years in Santa Barbara. We started in Montecito, but then when our neighbors kept knocking down their houses and building bigger mansions, we figured maybe we needed something more in tune with nature and less in tune with Beverly Hills. So we discovered Toro Canyon, and we read this 100+ page Toro Canyon plan. And we love it here. And Mike Nazarian, the man at 455, is our neighbor, direct neighbor. He's been my neighbor for 10 years. And as Betsy just said, we have no problem. He's got the certain right to build a home. But it has to be, we think, compatible with the Toro Canyon plan. And especially the point about preserving its quasi-rural character. There are a lot of reasons for you to seriously consider rejecting this plan or scaling it way back. And my neighbors like Betsy are going to cover a lot of the other ones. I just want to focus on size because some of the key words in this plan are bulk, size, and scale. And this is data from the county. It's from 2014 from Ryan Hoaxie, who was a planner. What? Oh, sorry, a planner. And I asked for more recent data, but we just found out about this 10 days ago. And we haven't had a chance to get them. But the neighborhood hasn't changed that much. This is 49 houses you see on the left of your pictures. 49 houses from the county with all the data. That's our neighborhood. That's Mr. Nazarian's neighborhood. And this is an integral part of Toro Canyon. And if you look at this, and I got the number 10,310 square feet from Kevin De Los Santos, who's the zoning planner. He gave me this number last week. I said, when you add it all up, Kevin, what is it? It's good. The property's going to have 10,310 square feet. And if you look at this, you see that the average of these 49 houses is 2,752 square feet. The median's a little bit less. And that's 3.74 times the size of the average house in Toro Canyon. And that's important. And you may say, okay, he's got 2.33 acres. Doesn't that count? Of course it counts. So let's look at square footage per acre. When you look at square footage per acre here, here's the average. And here's his house. It's the average is about 2132 per acre, and his is 4,400 per acre. The square footage alone, these numbers here should
make you think twice about approving this plan the way it is. And
Thank you.
bottom,
Mr.
I'll just finish in closing. The bottom line is that the spirit, this proposal violates the spirit and letter of the Toro Canyon Plan, which is supposed to be the guidelines. And it says it in the preface that the primary intent of the plan shall be to improve the quality of new development and to monitor it to fit the quasi-rural area. That's in the preface.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you, sir.
and,
Wrap up.
All right, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time.
We'll move on to David Freed.
David's not speaking next. We had an order.
All right, we have a lot of papers. Let me, who was in the order next? Is it in here? Oh, okay. Here we go. Chandra Campbell.
Thank you. I was in an accident, so he's walking with me. Thank you for hearing me. I was born and raised in Montecito and just grew to love this amazing paradise in which we all appreciate. 15 years ago, my husband and I moved to Toro Canyon. We could have moved almost anywhere, but I wanted to move to a place that was reminiscent of the pristine, beautiful area as Montecito was when I was growing up. And the Toro Canyon Plan gave me extra confidence that where we purchased, and it's going to be our forever home, was going to preserve that beauty. I have very strong concerns about this plan, as so articulately expressed by my neighbors and my husband. And I respectfully ask you to deny approval. Thank you.
Okay. Next will be Ted Campbell.
Morning, my name's Ted Campbell, and as Chandra was saying, we moved to our home at 466 Toro Canyon Road, which is across the street and up one from the subject property 14, 15 years ago. And we have appreciated that area as being our kind of a refuge from the more urban feeling Montecito as it's changed over the years. And the I've appreciated for 30 years the BAR and planning process that's kept our general area from becoming just overrun and overbuilt, maintaining a lot of natural beauty. And the Toro Canyon plan, particularly where we are on Toro Canyon, is very reassuring in that way that this area, this special canyon, is being looked after in terms of the environmentally sensitive habitat, the visual corridors, and the semi-rural feel, all brought up by the Toro Canyon plan. And in the plan, I noticed that one of the things that was bringing the plan forth was real concern that homes of 5,000 to 20,000 square foot had been built, and that was going to be concern. And this home at over 10,000 square feet in a modestly sized neighborhood is just totally inconsistent with anything with the neighborhood, goes against all the design concerns, and is totally out of compliance, I think, with any of the policies. And we we both hope that you will disapprove this massive development. Thank you.
And we'll move on to Antonia Robertson.
Good morning. I'm Antonia Robertson, and I live right next door to the subject property. And the building, as it's proposed, would incredibly affect our view. So that's just one thing I want to say up front. But, you know, going back in time a little bit, this is a lovely neighborhood. Everybody is very neighborly, and I hike every morning in Toro Canyon Park. It's beautiful. And by and large, pretty unpretentious, and as the map shows, the houses are not on a grandiose scale in the immediate area. But, you know, the other thing is that we've all become very uneasy about Mr. Nazarian's plans because the heavy equipment and the excavators and the sometimes 2 or 3 excavators or backhoes were moving rocks in the creek bank. And we had a conversation with him and said, please get permits, like do this right, get some engineers involved. It's got to be, you know, you can't just mess with creeks. He said, if you want war, you'll get war. Like, very unpleasant. Anyway, so that went on for months and months, and a lot of boulders came in, a lot of boulders went out. I don't know how many regulations were violated, but the county does have a stop order out and possibly more. So we're kind of wondering, the height of this building as proposed is 35 feet. And there's quite a lot of cut and fill, not sure why, because there's a very big flat pad where the existing house is. But, you know, maybe Mr. Nazarian would prefer to pay the fine, and 35 feet would become 45 feet. It's like 3 or 4 stories. Yeah, I don't quite know what he has in mind, but that is a real concern. Also, creeks and flooding and trees. The Toro Canyon has more old oaks than any other canyon in the entire Southern California, we are told. And there's quite a number on his property. I mean, accidentally on purpose, will trees disappear? You worry about these things. There's also, I'm just going to throw in, it's a little incidental, a high pressure gas line immediately adjacent to his property. If enough boulders and creek stuff was moved around, or there's some accident in building, we all go sky high. There, it's buried under the creek, it's buried under the Torito Street. Quite a concern of mine. So I just want to ask the board to please consider that this mega mansion is totally out of scale with the neighborhood, and generally would be, you know, against climate change, sustainability, against all the tenets of the Toro Canyon plan that the county spent a great deal of time and energy, and residents spent a great deal of time and energy putting together. And why we moved there thinking that, you know, there's some pretty serious protections to keep wildlife going, to keep the oaks going, to keep the nature of the neighborhood going. So please give that your earnest concern, and thank you very much.
And we'll move on to Jeff Chancer.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Jeff Chancer, and I live at 504 Toro Canyon Road, and have lived there with my wife since 2009. I'd like to just ask for a clarification first for 1 minute. In the notice we received about a week ago, it stated that at the request of Mr. Manciate, agent for Mike Nazarian, the addition of 8,762 square feet to the single-family dwelling. Yet in the agenda today, it has a different number of square feet, and it says 7,000 square feet. So I'm confused, one versus the other. So maybe we can get some clarification on that at a later time.
Yeah, when there's a presentation for it, yes.
Because there's a significant difference between 8,700 square feet versus 7,000 square feet. I mean, it's 20% difference. So I think we should be accurate on that,
Mhm.
one way or another. Then I'd like to, when I got the notice about a week or 10 days ago, I thought, maybe the best thing to do would be to look at the Toro Canyon plan, which I did not read the whole plan, to be honest, because it's 200 and some odd pages. But I did glance at it and read some parts of it. And I want to refer to, oh, you have it up. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the help of committee here and communicating with people, and everybody's been very responsive. So I wanted to thank you. The part that I'm concerned about in the plan and on page 13 in the plan, and it states on bullet number 2 that you can see there, provide for the reasonable use of property and limited additional development that largely maintains and is compatible with the existing scale and character of the area. This proposed plan does not live up to this. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, even though you probably already realize that. I don't think anybody in our community is against the Nazarian project moving forward. And that's their right. But we are very, very concerned about the scope, the compatibility, and the enormous size of the project. So I think what we're asking is that the board seriously look at this gigantic project and think about that size as far as we as residents are concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and effort.
Right. And David Freed.
Good morning. My name is David Freed. I live at 462 Toro Canyon. I've lived there for about 8 years, immediately across the road from the project in question, with my wife Betsy, who spoke earlier. So anything I say here today, I think will be redundant to what she expressed and what my neighbors, my dear neighbors, have expressed so eloquently. So I'll be brief. I think I speak for everybody who lives in Toro Canyon. In that there's a fundamental reason why we've chosen to call that place home, and that is that the canyon's overall aesthetic, the carefully considered integration of the developed and the undeveloped. We share an appreciation for the natural beauty that commands our neighborhood, the wonderful oak trees, the only occasionally unruly creeks, the abundant wildlife, and the overarching fact that in any direction you look, the landscape is dominated not by man-made objects, but by nature. We are deeply concerned that this house, if built as proposed, its massively disproportionate scale would overwhelm the landscape. I'm assuming that all of you on the board are familiar with the canyon and would no doubt agree that it's a very special, unique place. It has retained those qualities largely because of officials like you who have helped restrict unchecked growth and protected the semi-rural feel of the canyon. I'm no architect, but this house as currently proposed, the sheer bulk and the height of it almost laughably disrespects that aesthetic. As proposed, I believe strongly that it represents the quintessential McMansion, and it's better suited to somewhere like Beverly Hills, not Toro Canyon. So to reiterate and sum up what's already been said, none of us here is seeking to stop the applicant from expanding his house if that's what he so chooses to do. What we're hoping is that you and he will find common ground in an attractive, appropriately sized home design that optimizes, not dominates the neighborhood in which it would be built. Thank you for your consideration.
And just to clarify, the reason we allowed public comment to go ahead is because the request for continuance came after the agenda status report item had been closed. So it's not a normal practice that we allow public comment without the presentation, but it was just too late for the continuance. So we will take those public comment into account when we are able to get the presentation from the applicant. We'll move back to.
Well, I still believe we need a motion to continue the item.
Okay.
I so move.
Okay. Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Is there an applicant here for item 3?
Yes.
Okay, so we will jump back to item 3, the McQueen 4-car garage, request of Crystal Chan and Michael Ober, agent for Brent and Marie McQueen. Here for preliminary and final review of a 4-car garage of 877, oh, sorry. 800, yeah, kicking me out now. 877 square feet will be constructed below an ADU. The following structures exist on the parcel: a 2-story, 4-bedroom, single-family residence, including a 2-car garage, with a residence totaling 2,663 square feet. The proposed project will not require any cut or fill. It's on a 0.23 acre parcel located 6776 Del Playa Drive, and the applicant's online. Would the applicant like me to read the comment? Hello.
Sorry, this is the planner, Veronica King. And I'm just jumping in because I just got off the phone with Jarrett, the applicant or the agent for the applicant. And these are not the plans they want to present today. So we are going to request a continuance.
Okay. Can we confirm if there's any public comment now that I've been president?
There's any public comment for 24 BAR-00016 McQueen 4-car garage? Please raise your hand in the chat, or *6 to unmute and *9 to raise your hand. Seeing none?
All right, then can we get a motion?
Oh, we don't need a motion for this one because this has been here already before.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, moving on to item 5. That is item 6 on our agenda. So it might be item 6 on public's agenda. 3485 Padaro B LLC edition at the request of Shelby Messner Janke, agents for the 3485 Padaro B LLC. Here for preliminary and final review of the demolition of an existing cottage and an addition or remodel of approximately 2,171 square feet to the existing residence. There is an existing cottage of 750 square feet to be demolished, a residence of 2,213 square feet that appears to remain. The proposed project will require 90 cubic yards of cut and 150 fill. It's a 0.76 acre parcel located at 3485 and 3485.5 Padaro Lane. Is the applicant here, and would they like me to read the previous comments?
Yes. Hi, good morning. This is Mary Androlitis. Shelby couldn't be here this morning. You can go ahead and read the previous comments. That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Well-designed and executed project. Site planning and placement of structures is appropriate. Remove stipa plant from plant list. Planter to north of residence should be widened to increase depth, and ensure pool equipment is screened and shielded.
Great. Thank you. I'll just go ahead, real quick, introduce the team that's here representing the project today. Myself and Nathan Wood from NMA Architects, Jason Gotsis, our civil engineer with Ashley Vance, and then the team from LZ Design Group, the landscape architecture, landscape designer, Lisa Zeter, Beth Thorne, and Sakura Oyama are here. So just a quick recap: 3485 Padaro Lane includes a remodel of an existing 2-story residence with a proposed 2-story addition, as well as a new pool and freestanding pergola shade structure. The proposed development requires the removal of an existing cottage on site to accommodate the addition and also to locate the development further back from the beach. This project was seen by the zoning administrator on February 26, where it received approval of the coastal development permit. So we're back for preliminary and final approval. In response to those comments, just real quick, and I'll point out those as we move along through the plans, but the stipa has been removed from the plant list in the plan. We enlarged that planter at the north end of the garage and introduced some additional screening landscaping. The pool equipment is in the same location, but fully screened with a property line fencing and sweet bay hedge.
And Mary,
Um,
not, sorry to interrupt, but you can
Nope.
focus on anything related to the comments because we did see this in depth previously.
Okay, so you want me to just move on?
Yeah.
Pages 2 and 3 of the PDF are site photos if anybody needs to revisit those. Or otherwise you can go right to page 12, which is the site plan. And you'll see the north end of the garage. I think you may have gone, oh, there we go. Go back. Back again. There you go, site plan. So at the north end of the garage is that planter that was mentioned in the comments. It's 5.5 feet deep, 22 feet wide. So again, it's ample to accommodate some landscaping to screen that north end. One change I wanted to point out, the pathways were originally raised boardwalk. Those have been changed to simple DG paths. So that was a value engineering change. And then I'll point it out on the floor plan again, but the pool equipment is located along the east side, screened by that property line fencing and hedging. You can go to the first floor plan on the next page. One, again, a value engineering change, I'll just point out on the south deck, which is the left-hand side. It's a partially covered and there was a trellis extension to that deck that was removed, as well as a small raised area of deck. So we just simplified that end. On the second floor plan, next page, we eliminated a skylight over the kids' bathroom. So again, pretty minor. Page 17 is the pergola plan, the pergola that's alongside the pool. No changes to that. That was just to remind you. Page 18 is where the exterior elevations start. One, again, minor change. There's some vertical screening along the entry porch at the lower level. That was minimized. It extended originally to the second floor. It's now just at the first floor. The siding, I'll wait till we get to the materials board on that, but yeah, that's it. Those are the only changes. Next page 19 are the additional elevations. I can probably, if you're okay with it, go right to electrical and materials if you want to. There's actually stop right here for 1 sec. That north elevation, there was one change. That little pop out on the north elevation has an existing shed roof. We were proposing to pull that up to a gable aligned with the roof behind it, where you ended up. Value engineering, we're just leaving existing. You could go all the way to page 30, which is, sorry, if you would back up, go to 21. There are renderings, which I do want you to see. Yeah, this page, these renderings are as viewed from the beach and the pool area, as well as across the creek. So that creek runs along the west side of the property. And then the next page are just some additional views from the street. There was a concern about the visibility of that north elevation, but that second perspective, the upper right, shows you that entry auto gate and fence screens that pretty significantly as well. Now you could go to 30, page 30 of the PDF. Or actually, go to the next page, has the light fixtures on it. There's 5 exterior light fixtures. Fixture A is a simple recessed fixture that's used only on the ground level at the covered entry porch and the covered portion of the south deck. Fixture B is a step light that's used just at deck steps and at the second floor deck off the south end of the primary bedroom suite. Fixture C is the one decorative wall sconce that we're using. It's dark sky compliant. There's a couple of those flanking the garage door. a couple flanking the door at the second floor deck along the west side, sort of set back from the elevation, and then one more on the east side near a storage room door. Fixture D, there are 4 of those, I think 4 mounted in the pool pergola, downlight directed down. And then fixture E is just a custom fixture in the near the auto gate to illuminate the house numbers. So it utilizes an LED strip that's hidden behind a constructed box that's finished in sheet metal. And if you want to see the electrical plans, you can go back a page. It'll show the number of fixtures and where they're used.
It's okay, we can continue on.
Okay. I'd like to just quickly visit the color materials board, and then I'll hand it off
That would
to
be great.
Lisa for the, so I think it's a separate file, the color material board.
What page would that be on?
She thinks it's a separate
I believe
file.
it's a separate file.
Oh,
We have site photos and final plans, but we don't have a separate materials board here.
It was submitted.
the planner online. This is here. Feeling final, right?
Yes, this is for preliminary final. And the materials board was submitted.
All right, well, let's get, let's have the landscape presentation, and if the planner can get.
Can we, do you want us to email it again real quick? Because I don't want to not have that seen.
Well, it has to go through the planner. So I'm hoping that Kevin De Los Santos
Kevin
might be
has
able
it.
to.
Yep.
Yeah, he might be able to send it to us while we're
Okay,
talking.
thanks.
Kevin, are you online? I do see him, but
Yeah, I'm online. I'm looking at my case folder right now. I'll follow up here in a second.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's have the landscape presentation, and then we'll try to return to that.
Okay, this is Lisa. Where do you want to start?
Anything that's changed since we last saw it and pertaining to the comments?
So what's changed since we last came before you was the steepa, and that's been taken out of the plan. And we've subbed that with fescue, and nothing else has changed. We've been consistent with our plan since we first submitted.
Okay, I had one question. We'll head into questions from the board in a minute, but is the Bermuda proposed or existing on the ocean side of the house?
The Bermuda is proposed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Kevin, did you find a color board? Or Mary, is there a chance that in your renderings, are those color correct for?
Yeah,
the
well,
color board?
they're close. I mean, as close as we can get them, yes. Those renderings again are on, I think it was sheet 21.
All right, we'll move on to questions from the board and come back if Kevin can get that on the screen for us. Any questions from the board? Nope. All right, is there any public comment on this in the audience or online?
If anybody would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand. We have not received any letters for this item. Seeing no hands and nobody in the audience.
Yes.
I have a question on the materials board. The color?
Yes.
What's the exterior color?
That's what we're trying to have the planner pull up the materials board that was submitted. So we're just waiting till, that's what I'm trying to stall so that they can pull that up for us so we can see. Yeah, I need a good joke about Zara Lane right now. No. Okay, so we will move on to, we will close public comment and move on to comments from the board. Kevin, have you found a color board in there? Maybe we can put the renderings on the screen for now.
Yes. How would you like me to present them to you? Do you want me to share my screen or send them over to Jonathan real quick?
Send them to Jonathan, please.
Okay, just a moment. Thank you.
So we do have the materials board?
We do.
Great.
And it sounds like it was submitted correctly. We just need to get it on the screen. You can go to the rendering for now so we can, then we can answer John's question a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll just start. We're proposing to use a composite siding. It's called NewTek. There are two profiles and two colors being used. There's a Norwegian siding and a Hawaiian, they call it Hawaiian charcoal. And that profile is a 1 inch wide slat with 1/2 inch spaces in between. The other is a Californian profile, which is in the Japanese cedar color. It's basically a tongue and groove installed vertically with staggered joints with a 5 inch exposure on the face. That material with the Japanese cedar is also used on the decking and on ceilings, the flat ceiling portions and the underside of the gable on the south end. And then it's a black standing seam metal roof.
Go.
There we go. Black anodized aluminum door and window system. The driveway is the Davis color caramel, which is on there. Item numbers, the DG pathways are California gold. And then there's the two dormers on that west facing elevation have a dark gray PVC membrane roofing as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on to comments from the board. We'll start with John.
Yeah, it seems that the field color, well, it seems dark. And is that, I worry about neighborhood compatibility with that darker color. That's my comment.
Okay, Alex.
No comments.
Val.
Yeah, I agree with John. It seems really dark. I mean, it's a big house with a lot of dark. Is there a tone that you can step that back?
There's not in this product, and we spent a lot of time vetting products. This one kind of fit the bill as far as it's sustainable, it's 95% recycled content. The material itself is recyclable. It's low maintenance. It looks like wood. It's amazing how much, especially the cedar, the lighter color looks like a stained wood. It's extremely durable, low maintenance. And the aesthetic the owners want is this sort of Scandinavian beach home. So it ties into that. And we're not using the black everywhere. The Hawaiian charcoal, we're using, interspersing the lighter color as well.
Check out those renderings again to see kind of what goes where.
Yeah, if you go to page 18, right there you can see where the lighter color kind of breaks up. Go up one sheet.
One sheet.
There's a big area, the lighter color with trees against it.
Did you have any other comments, Val? Okay, Chris?
Okay. Yeah. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job with this project, and you've been here several times, and I think you've, crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's. So I think I'm in support. It is dark, but I think you are also softening that with vegetation.
And this is what we've presented before is the dark color.
Yeah, exactly.
Mixed with the lighter siding.
It's not new, and we didn't really say anything before. I think it's gonna be fine. The one thing that, I guess I'll make the comment, then the Bermuda grass, we're a little concerned, for the Bermuda grass, we're a little concerned that it would escape and get into the dunes. So it suggest or require an alternative non-invasive lawn species, which, could be a comment, but still get approval. And that's all I have.
Okay, Robert?
Yeah, I think your project's very nice, and I'm not so concerned about the dark color because I don't think the house really reads from that angle to the public. If you go up one sheet, or is it down one? No, it'll go down two then. I mean, that's the top right is really like the view anybody could see of it. I think it's all good. I think it should be able to move forward.
I have no additional comments. I had the concern about the Bermuda escaping on the ocean side. But again, it doesn't have to hold the project up. It can just be carried forward with a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for prelim and final with, is that the only comment? The Bermuda to
I
substitute?
can offer you an option right now.
Okay,
Bermuda, we can move that to Lipia, which is a grass substitute.
sure. Curapia.
Right, you
Um,
got that right.
Yeah, I mean, does attract a lot of bees, but you know, that's up to you.
mow
Just
it.
something non-invasive.
Yep.
We're not gonna,
No.
bees are good.
With bees.
Unless you have kids running around all over it. But anyway, yeah, I think that would be fine. So it's prelim and final with to choose a different species for the grass.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so out of order, let's see. Is the actual item, is Pierce Garage number 7 officially? Okay. Moving on to Pierce Garage at the request of Florence Carl, agent for Thomas Pierce. Here for preliminary and final review and approval of a new garage addition of 607 square feet. The following structures exist, a single-story residence of 2,706 square feet, and it will require 25 cubic yards of cut and 5 fill. The property is 0.23 acres, located at 570 Rhonda Drive in the eastern Galita Valley area. I'll go ahead and read the comments. The architectural design and materials are appropriate. One member suggests consideration of differing materials and architectural style between the new structure and the single-family dwelling. Garage is too large. Overall concept of garage is too wide. Reduced facade of garage facing street. Study ways to pull in storage areas to reduce encroachment into interior courtyard. Restudy entry of house and make more prominent. Architectural detailing on proposed additions should be incorporated into existing elevations. Return with elevations without vegetation to show proposed structural improvements. The applicant can state your name and give us your presentation focused around the comments.
Adam Grossons. Actually, if we could just like switch over to a couple pages down, I can probably get through all the comments in one fell swoop. This is I added more context of the neighborhoods and like how the garages are sort of like are sort of presented in the neighborhood. There's like sort of wide, low sort of garages. But anyway, this page right here. So we've reduced the width of the garage. It is no longer encroaching into the setback there, or not the setback, the interior courtyard, which gives a clear line of sight to the existing front entry. The front entry right now is kind of like a lot of mechanical equipment and like it's a very like a very rough space. And also the vent that's currently for the attic space is kind of off center and low for whatever reason. So we're correcting that and providing a low, and this is also like gets hammered by sun. So we're also providing a little roof to break up this piece of stucco and make the entry more prominent as an entry point to the house. We've tied in that sort of that vent and that sort of language with the sort of center mass and the garage addition. And I think that was all of the comments.
Thank you. We'll move on to questions from the board. Anybody have any questions? All right, we will open up public comment. Do we have any speaker slips for item 7? I think I saw one. And then is there anyone online? We have one in person? 2 in person? Is there anyone online for public comment?
If anybody is online for Pierce Garage to make a public comment, please raise your hand.
All right,
Seeing none?
we'll call up, Kennedy, oh, sorry. You'll have 3 minutes.
I live across the street and I came prepared to talk about the neighborhood and what it means to us. I've lived there since 2000. That design is exactly what we were hoping we would see without the ADU, which I know we can't say anything about. So now with my letter moot, I want to know, are they going to come back later and revise this again and try to sneak in an ADU? Other than that, I think it looks great and we would be happy to, the neighborhood, the 2 of us are here, would be happy to see them extend their house. Their existing garage was converted to 2 bedrooms and then blah, 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 blah. So that looks great and I'm surprised. So,
Thank you.
and now Jeff.
Yes, Jeff Hansen.
My name is Jeff Hansen. My wife Peggy Kearns and I live at 575 Ronda Drive, directly across the street. I was here to comment on a previous design that had a 2-story with an ADU on top, which was out of scale for the neighborhood by a considerable amount. What I'm seeing here, I really don't have much objection to. What the point I was going to make on the 2-story was that the house sits about 6 feet above the sidewalk, and if it were going to be a 2-story project, to lower the garage down to reduce the overall height, but now they're just to a garage addition, so I really don't have any objection to it. It looks like it's very compatible with the neighborhood, so I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to comments from the board. Start with Val.
Where'd the ADU go?
So the property itself was converted to what was it, elder living, and so it's kind of inside. All the bathrooms are sort of medical facility stuff like that. It's not really homey, and so we went back to like the core principle of this project, and which was an interior renovation, and then also this sort of addition to get them garage. So we've pulled it back and just made it back to the core of making this more of a house again.
Okay. Well, I think it looks like a nice solution. So that's my comment.
Alex?
Nothing to add, seems like an acceptable project.
You know, I think that since the garage now and the house are kind of in the same plane, if you could keep that tree that's existing, you would sort of offset that front elevation there a little bit, so that wouldn't seem so strong.
Are you talking about the bird of paradise?
In other words, that tree that's on the existing side on the left.
Oh, the on the left, we're keeping the bird of paradise. We're not getting rid of it. The comment was.
Oh, well, then there it is.
The comment, it's actually faded out in the image. On the cover sheet, you see it with it in its full glory. It's just one of the comments from the board was, we can't see the rest of the house with that there, so can you remove it in the rendering? And so that's what was one of the other comments.
Okay. Chris?
Oh, nothing to add. I think it looks good.
Robert?
I agree. Good work.
All right, thank you.
All right, so it's here, this is here for preliminary and final review. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Oh,
Sorry, actually, before you do that, are there landscape plans or are there any landscape changes proposed?
Well, we're just sort of doing this patio area and redoing the driveway with, we have a site plan.
Okay,
so-
did you already review those, Robert and Chris?
I think last time you had the,
Yeah,
There aren't any plant species called out, so it's.
yeah, it's kind of like a preliminary landscape plan. We had a full one or a much more full one before with the previous design, but since we did a redesign, we didn't want to go full. If you do want to see a landscape plan, can we go back for consent for that?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
One comment too on that. Is it a real lawn or a synthetic lawn? If you're doing a real lawn, I wouldn't have it right up against the house because then you're gonna have spraying going under your house.
Yeah,
Probably not ideal.
I was thinking we'll probably do synthetic, but I haven't talked to them about that piece yet. It was just sort of like getting the aesthetics of the house like corrected.
Yeah. Well, then I would make a motion for preliminary approval and to return on consent for final with appropriate landscape plans.
You're close, you probably just need to identify some species for your symbols.
Yeah, and irrigation and wheelo. I mean, that's what we're used to seeing, and so we need to continue.
We have a second?
And there's no comments, right? Just approval, preliminary approval.
But should indicate what the pavers for the driveway are gonna do, yeah?
Yeah, I think I do on the, if we go up to the material board, I think I have the pavers. If not, in the landscape plan, I remember we did have that.
I mean,
No, we don't. So I think that was in the landscape plans that had.
all the paving materials, plants.
Mhm.
Identify.
Oh, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on to item 8, the Melendez Rasmussen Trust Garage and Game Room Addition, request of Salvador Melendez, architect for Eddie Melendez. For further conceptual review of a remodel to an existing carport to new garage of approximately 671 square feet and a new addition over garage of approximately 530 square feet. There's currently a one-story residence with attached carport and garage on the property. The project requires no cut or fill. It's a 12,000-ish square foot parcel located at 5120 Cathedral Oaks Road in the Eastern Goleta Valley area. And all for consistency, read the comments. Second story addition is side loaded and adjacent to neighboring structure. Study ways to provide relief by stepping the structure away from the adjacent property. Return with updated plan set showing outline of adjacent structures on site plan and elevations. Restudy massing of buildings. Consider gable ends facing street to reduce mass. Window over garage appears awkward. Restudy. Simplify drawings as presented. Drawings are hard to read. If you can state your name and.
Salvador Melendez, architect.
Thank you. Go ahead with your presentation.
So what we have done, we had originally presented a second-story addition over the two-car garage. We have abandoned that idea. Instead, we're staying with one-story height, but we are expanding the floor plan.
And go ahead through the drawing set. Here, let's see the elevations. Okay, it's here for further conceptual. Okay, I guess we'll move on to questions from the board. I have one question. What is the height of the, I guess, on the south elevation of that peak?
Let's take a look at building section XX. That tells you the you need to go up.
I just
Pitch up a little bit, please. Not that.
scroll. Next page down.
There.
Here we go. Okay, sorry, I didn't see that.
So that will be the tallest part of the new hip roof that we're proposing to do.
Does the board have any other questions? All right, we'll move on to whether there's any, is there any public comment?
If anybody would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the chat. Seeing none?
All right, we'll close public comment and move on to comments from the board. John, would you like to start?
Well, I think it looks well balanced and, it's, well, anyway, I think you've worked the proportions out and, I think it's, I could support this. Be my comment.
Yeah, one of the things I like the most about this project is that it's all shown in 2 pages, which at this time, in the year 2024, that's kind of like a minor miracle. I mean, something that doesn't happen anymore. People usually take, I don't know, use 20 pages showing you all of this other stuff, and you have the clarity to show, go back to the previous page, all right there, existing proposed site plan, the neighborhood, excellent. Masterpiece.
All right, Val.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting solution. The high ceiling you have, that's in the game room?
Yes, it's in the addition, yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think it looks good.
I agree.
Benefits of getting this before lunch. Robert?
I
Yeah.
agree too.
Okay.
The garage door looks like it's, I don't know, there's maybe go down to the elevator. Like the way that the roof comes over the garage door, it looks like there's some quality to it that seems off to me, but you go down because that's existing. Like how tall is the garage door right there?
It's a normal high, 8 foot high ceiling plate.
All right, well then you've done a good job of like fitting this garage in a very compact kind of way with the house. So I guess it works.
I have no additional comments. So you're here for further conceptual. So you can come back for really prelim and final, do you think? Prelim and final full board. Bring all your details then.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 9, the Catalano Loja, the request of Kelly Tyke, agent for Anthon and Diana Catalano, here for conceptual review of a proposed loggia with upper deck of 448 square feet, outdoor stairs of 107 square feet, replace window in master bedroom on 2nd floor with double French doors to access for upper deck. There's a main residence of 2,664 square feet. The project will require no cut or fill. It's a 0.57 acre parcel located at 4667 Sierra Madre Road in the Eastern Galeta Valley. This sounds like a very small scope. So it can be a brief presentation. Please state your name and give us your presentation.
Hello, my name is Berenice Montoya, and I will be presenting on behalf of the Warner Group Architects. Okay, so this is a very small project, like you said. The site, here on the site plan, you can see that the size of the lot is it's a little over half of an acre. And the property has a 2-story single-family home. And you can see in the dotted red area, we are proposing a loggia and an outdoor stair. So that's where the project will be focused. Okay, so if you could go down. All right, so this is the existing floor plan of the house. You can see, yeah, continue. And if you scroll down to the south elevation, yeah. So there you can see the existing trellis. And then up at the top, at the corner, you can see an existing window at the top corner of the 2nd story, which we are proposing to remove. So if you could go down to the floor plan. Okay, so let's focus in the bottom left corner. We are proposing a loggia that is 16 by 28 feet. We are proposing to remove the existing column for the trellis and then connect the trellis to the loggia so it looks more integrated. In the loggia, we're also proposing a fireplace and then around the corner, you can see that there is a set of stairs, and those outdoor stairs will take you up to the upper deck to the second floor. So if you scroll up to the second floor, you can see that that is the upper deck. And then those windows in the master bedroom in that corner, we are proposing to remove them and then add double doors opening into the upper deck. The materials for the project, the style of the house is Spanish, so we want to make the project feel integrated. So we're going to continue on to that. The pavers for the upper deck will be terracotta pavers, and that is about it.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I have a question. How close are you to your neighbor there with the new fireplace and that side of the deck?
So if you could go to the site plan, we are actually within, the setbacks are 10 feet and we are right on that 10-foot setback. So that existing house is 17 feet and we are proposing that set of stair and where the fireplace to be 7 feet off of the house. So we're right on the setback.
Okay. But your fireplace is kind of across from the downslope of the neighbor, it looks like.
Oh,
And is there screening there already?
if you could scroll down to some photos. Next page. So that from the neighbors we tried to incorporate the design to avoid any obstructing any views from the neighbors. So we accounted for that.
And there's already hedge screening between the properties?
Yes. Okay, if we could go down to the bottom, last page. Yeah.
Any questions? We'll move on to public comment.
If anybody would like to make a comment on this item in the chat, please raise your hand. Seeing none, and we have nobody signed up to speak in person.
All right, we'll close public comment and move on to comments from the board. It's pretty minor. Does anyone have any comments? Is that every single?
Looks good.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
A comment, it's a minor comment. From looking at the house now, the way you've rendered it, which looks really nice, the shutters, you know, seem inconsistent with the Spanish, you know, theme. So maybe you take a look at that. It just seems like the horizontal slats don't seem to be consistent with the, you know, the Spanish idea. So maybe you want to think about that.
Okay, the shutters are existing and we were trying to keep the project as minimal as possible, but yes, we can consider.
Oh, darn.
all right. So it's here for conceptual review. It's minor enough that is everyone comfortable coming back prelim final full board, I guess, or on consent? Okay. You can come back prelim final on consent.
Thank you.
Okay, Blatt Family Trust, item 10. What was that? Blatt? At the request of Heidi Jones, agent for the Blatt Family Trust, Ben Levy, here for conceptual review for a proposed attached accessory dwelling unit requiring a setback modification approval. There is a 3,108 square foot single family residence and 690 square foot 3-car garage on the property. The proposed project requires no cut or fill. It's a 1.1 acre parcel located at 4110 Crescente Drive in the eastern Goleta Valley. Is Heidi online or another representative for this project?
I am here. Good afternoon. We're happy to be here today to go over the requested modification. So the request is for a proposed second story addition above the existing garage, which you can see there shaded in gray. It encroaches into the front yard setback, and the modification is to allow a 90-foot setback instead of 125 from the center line of Marina. As you can see, the site is constrained by 2 large setbacks on Crescente and Marina. And there's really not other buildable areas on the property because there's existing septic system and seepage pits or other constraints or encroachments into a setback. So this seemed like the great location to propose ADU second story on an existing second story home that's already there. The garage obtained modification approval for a setback back in 1999. And this location of the garage is set 8 feet lower than the elevation of Marina Drive. Hope Ranch ABR reviewed the project and ultimately supported it after a couple of reviews, studying story poles and screening. And we have the plans here for your review, open to your questions and comments.
Thank you.
Our architect, Angie Hupp, is also here too, if you have questions for her.
Okay. Do you have existing elevations in the set?
Let me look. Maybe not. We can surely bring some back for you.
We'll open up questions from the board.
Yeah, is the garage existing or not?
The garage is existing. So
Garage is
just imagine that section above the garage is not there, and that's your existing elevation.
And it has like a gable roof, kind of like a normal gable roof, or what, a flat roof?
What's the existing roof over the garage? Oh yeah, let's go to the photos. Photos that kind of show the front elevation, Jonathan. Yeah.
It's a gable,
And-
right?
Yeah, it looks like gable. Angie, are you on?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so right there, stop, go back up. Right there. So it's an existing gable roof. So we're literally taking the same roof line and raising it up to the second story level.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, we do have public comment. If there's anyone online, you can raise your hand and we'll start with the speaker slip, Adrian Schuley.
Hi, I'm Adrian Schuley and I live directly across the street. Was involved in a lot of comments back in 1999 when this house was built. In this, there's a lot of things. It's not 35 feet into the setback. It's actually 39 feet into the setback because it does have a 4-foot wide stairwell on the northern side of the property. It is that will be encroaching. There is a horse trail across the street, and that takes away the view of the coastal view because it will be coming all the way up, actually 18 feet above Marina Drive level. So it cuts off the ability to see the ocean and the islands from the street. It's not compatible with the neighborhood. There are no 2-story encroachments into the Marina Drive corridor at all. And this is going 39 feet into this Marina Drive corridor with a second story. One thing about this, in reading through 35-142, it is very adamant about an ADU should not be going into the front yard setback. This is going 39 feet into the front yard setback. And their other thing in 142 is that if there is another place to put an ADU on the property that is not in the setbacks, you cannot get the modification. So if you see on the backside, they can put an attached ADU there's an area there that's 21 feet wide and about 90 feet long where they can choose to put an ADU attached to the main residence. They could do it without even blocking the egress from the bedroom downstairs, leaving the kitchen window, and it would not be imposing on the Marina Drive corridor, which is a very scenic corridor with our iconic palm trees. And it would not be setting the precedent. It's not a matter of what they want or need. There are other places on the lot to put this ADU that is allowable without a modification out of the front yard setback. That's what I want to say. The other thing is it looks very beautiful from their motor court area. Looks very beautiful from their backyard. But on the west side and the north side, we've got not so good looking architecture that we get to look at. And that's, Marina Drive is an iconic street, you know, with our palm trees. It's 4 houses into Hope Ranch from the coastal arch. It's in a lot of photographs that people take of the coastal arch. And this will just dominate and tower over Marina Drive. So, but since they have somewhere else to put it on the lot that does not need a modification, I think that's where they should really move forward to. Thank you.
Ma'am, can you point to where you're talking about in terms of where another location might be, please?
Because ADU has a 4-foot setback.
Yeah.
It's 25. They can go
Oh.
from here all the way here.
Got it.
Can you please relay where that's speaking to and pull up our site plan?
I see.
Pardon me?
These areas she just pointed out, is it where my mouse is? I believe the agent for the project is asking where you were pointing to. I'll follow with my mouse.
The wall at the kitchen. On the western side from,
Go to page 11 on the PDF, it shows it.
yeah. So there you go. And now it can actually, since it's attached, it can actually go further down
Yeah, the
because
rear
this
yard
doesn't
setback.
there.
Thank you for your comment. We'll move on to comments from the board, starting with, oh, yeah.
A question. So to the applicant, what's the argument against the locating the ADU where the blue rectangle is?
Well, it's just suffocating the rear yard open space that's there. There's a large tree that's in that location as well. And it's nice to have some separation from your property lines. It made sense to us to put it in above in the garage.
Okay.
The home is existing 2-story as well, so it would match nicely.
Okay. We'll start with
We go to the
Move on to
elevation, the elevations, yeah,
closing public comment.
yeah, here we go, yeah.
All right, Alex, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I think it's a big ask. It's a 39-foot encroachment. I mean, it's a big ask. It's a 2-story, so that's why I'm trying to figure out a way to minimize the request. So I'm reluctant to go along because of that. It just seems like you know, there are other possibilities. There's other designs available. And to have a 2nd-story encroaching that much into the front yard, it doesn't seem appropriate. I would like to hear what the other board members have to say.
Yeah, I want to drive by and look at it, but it seems that it's not a good solution given the amount that it has to encroach as a 2-story on a main road like Marina Drive. And the fact that there's another location that it could go. So at this point, I'm not supportive.
John?
Well, I agree with that. I think that Marina Drive really is an iconic Santa Barbara road. And there are other places where that could be located. And it's 39 feet into the setback, which is a lot. So I can't support this either.
Okay. Robert?
Yeah, I agree with the concerns from the board here. I think it's been demonstrated there's another location to cite this. Also, I wanted to clarify, the applicant said that Hope Ranch has seen this and supported it, but then the letter here says that Hope Ranch has not been presented this project and has no approvals, so.
They did review the project. It was a proposed addition, also wants to be known as a ADU now in the same location, the exact same thing. It's just called a different name.
So when was that?
It was in January of this 23-24. It went 3 times and they ultimately supported it. They understood the setbacks and constraints and they supported the variance for the encroachment as well. The meeting minutes from those were provided to our planner.
Yeah, well, I think it's demonstrated here that there might be some alternatives that at least should be reviewed.
Sure.
Excuse me, can I say something?
We'll give you 1 minute at the end, once we
Okay.
complete
Well,
comments.
okay, no, this is Angie Huff, the architect.
Yeah, we'll give you just 1 minute at the end once we
Okay,
finish comments.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
What I was gonna say. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with Val. I'd like to see it and also to see the comments from the Hope Ranch Board
Sure.
for the last review. Just
Yes.
to kind of get a sense of what they were feeling as well.
Okay.
And were there story polls done? I forget.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see, oh, the other thing was to bring photos back at the next meeting, photos from the street. I mean, my concern is, can you see this from Marina Drive? If not, maybe it's okay, but it's not, hasn't been proven.
Yeah, there were some studies, there was some views that ranged from about 4 feet to 13 feet at different perspectives along Marina.
Okay,
But where are they? I mean, for us, we are the ones that would make the modification finding, but
Understood.
we should see the story polls.
yeah, or a photo sim at this point, if you don't have the story polls, but something that helps us make the right decision.
Thank you.
And also, please bring back the existing elevations too, because the side elevations will matter too, to be able to compare.
Will do.
All right, so Angie, if you'd like a minute to respond.
Oh, sure. So yes, there are actually some photographs included in the plans on T2 of the street views, if you want to look at those. And you can clearly see the existing shrubbery that is along Marina Drive is quite high. And with the amount that the second story addition is set back, it still is a 90-foot setback from Marina Drive. And the fact that the finished floor of the existing garage is about 8 feet below the height of Marina Drive. You cannot see the top of the addition very much. You can see glimpses of it, but not as strongly as it seems that the board is getting that image. And we also went through the hedge view with Hope Ranch, and the owner has agreed to reduce the height of the hedge by 8 inches to the original height when they purchased the property. But it's not a significant amount that is being shown on these photographs.
Okay.
And then as far as going through alternative sites on the property, we already went through all that with Hope Ranch. And to put it on that side yard behind the kitchen would that is the current courtyard for them right now with a window from the kitchen. So if we were to have to put it back in that area, first of all, it would be right on the setback almost of that side yard, and it would also not afford any light or anything into the kitchen. So we've already kind of looked at all those other alternative sites, and because there are 2 front yard setbacks on this property, the site itself that's buildable, if you look at T1, is already very constrained, and we are not allowed in the coastal zone to build a detached ADU under a 2-acre parcel. So anything would have to be attached, and it would be like I said, we've already reviewed all that with the Hope Ranch Board, and I guess I'm sorry that you didn't get all that information. So whatever you need from them in terms of story polls or minutes, we'd be happy to submit those to you.
Okay, yeah, so just to follow up on our comments, we will need all that. It's our board that has to make the determination and it is a significant modification request. So we will need all that documentation to be able to review it and a site visit, so.
Haley,
Okay.
one
Yes.
comment in the comment letter here references, some type of a planning code that says that if there is an option to put it in the side yard setback, then the front yard setback can't be used. So I think we need to have a planner weigh in on, the applicability of this code to what's being proposed.
Willow, are you online? Willow, would you be able to answer Robert's question about the interpretation of, I was gonna reread it out loud, but.
I mean, it seems like their argument for not being able to locate this in the side yard setback is because it's going to interfere with the courtyard, but I don't think that
That's not how
I don't think
code
that
is written.
works with what is being indicated in this code. I'm not familiar with it, but I think a planner should respond to it.
Willow, are you able to respond?
Did it say in the courtyard's also in the setback?
Understood. Okay, well, our comments will carry, this is here for.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes?
so, sorry, so Willow's online, but I don't think we're able to hear her. So Willow's gonna dig into that letter in the code section and prepare a memo for when it returns to address what's been raised.
Okay.
So we'll need some time to evaluate that.
That'd be great. A detailed planner memo would be,
Madam Chair, can I suggest a minor modification, meaning instead of, let me point here.
Are you following where my mouse is
I would
pointing?
have a minor, maybe 10 feet going into the first floor. Yeah, something like that, to
Can you
protect the
repeat that,
windows.
please? We,
That kind of a thing. Anyway, I just want to leave it there. I just think that there is a solution here without such a big modification.
it's the scale of the modification that your comment. pertains to.
we didn't hear part of that. Can you repeat it, please, Mr. Peugeot?
Yeah, the idea of having the first floor, but instead of putting right in front of the kitchen, just move it up north slightly. So it does encroach into the first floor setback, front setback, but not that much, maybe, I don't know, 10 feet or so. And so it is a one-story encroachment, and it protects it still keeps your kitchen windows or some kind of windows on that side, on the west side, open and available, the courtyard and all that.
You could run it all the way up, paralleling the whole backside of the garage. But even if it goes 39 feet into the setback, but as a one-story, it's much more acceptable, I think.
Yep, that's the other, I was trying to keep it below that so the front is not so wide.
Right. Maybe
Maybe keep it 5 feet or 10 feet.
Elevation of the west side?
Not existing. They don't have existing elevations.
Of the west, of the west? Yeah, they must have the west there, right? There is that the west?
Proposed, right?
I see, okay.
Yeah, so basically, if you look at that west elevation, just imagine again that roof down at a single story you can see the existing noted on the below the grade line, and then to the left, the proposed second story. So all of that basically is dropped down to a single story gable, and then the window, the part that's a facing gable that's facing us just continues down. And we have photographs of it.
Okay.
Well, I think for you to be more convincing to us, you should have clear existing elevations and also a way to demonstrate from the road what it would be. Otherwise, we really should move in this direction. Well, either way, we need the existing elevations.
Okay, so it was here for conceptual review. Yeah, it'll continue or come back for further conceptual so that we can see a more complete package.
Thank you so much.
I think we can give them an opportunity if they do come back with everything we need to have further conceptual and preliminary.
Preliminary. Okay.
Get
Should
it.
we have a site visit then if we're allowing it to potentially have preliminary?
Probably.
Okay, so
And there's no story polls. And so it doesn't really do us much good. We're not going to see anything.
We'll look to see what documentation we might have from the prior reviews, if we have images or photos of the story polls for you. We'll put together a more robust package for the next round.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, should we power through the last one? I think it's pretty straightforward. No, I didn't know if anyone needed a restroom break. Yeah. We'll be back at 2.
Just one more out.
All right, item 12 or item 11, Laguna Blanca School Site Improvements, the request of Steve Walton, agent for Laguna Blanca School. Here for conceptual, preliminary, and final review. Didn't know that was possible. Get on all 3 at once. Now I know. Of landscape and hardscape improvements to provide ADA access to the Haskell building. The following structures exist on the parcel currently: multiple school buildings, okay, it's a school. The project will require approximately 250 cubic yards of cut and 120 cubic yards of fill at a 11.09 acre parcel located at 4125 Paloma Drive in the Hope Ranch Community Plan area. Go ahead and give us your name and presentation.
My name's Matt Gradius with KBZ Architects. If we could start with
Let's put the memo on. Zoning clearance to allow for the development contemplated as part of the approved Laguna Blanca master plan. The condition number 2, AES1 of the approved development plan requires site plans and landscape plans to be reviewed. That's why we're seeing it. The landscaping is required to be drought tolerant or Mediterranean type species, adequately screen the project site and blend it with the existing landscape in terms of placement, color density, and height. Please comment on these characteristics when reviewing the project. I already read the description. Final approval of the zoning and clearance is subject to review by the planner. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, if we could start with page 2, just to orient you on the site. The lower right-hand side or that middle right-hand side gray box is the building that we're remodeling. It's an interior only remodel. And then Las Palmas is on the far left of the sheet. So way up on the top corner. That's Las Palmas Drive. And then in between here is Paloma. So we're on the Paloma, on the south side of Paloma. The project that's sort of triggering this is the renovation of that. We're altering 2 classrooms and stuff. That's a separate pathway. But the project we're here to talk about today is we're basically doing moving towards the master plan that's been approved in like 2015 or I think it's 2015. And we're sort of really being more direct with the pathways and stuff and making them accessible so that the campus has a more accessible pathways through it. We sort of did that already. There's a project that we did previously at the science building, and that renovated that whole or rehabilitated that whole front end on Paloma. And we're sort of taking that and pulling it through the campus now. If you can go to page 4. And this is the building that's being renovated. To the right is a photo of a pathway that goes towards a little amphitheater, but you can see it's all asphalt paths. And then on the left is another pathway that sort of encroaches into that redwood tree that's right there. And we're relocating the pathway outside of its root zone. And then on the bottom left is a patio. It's a brick patio, and you'll see that in the planning later on. On the right is what we did previously with the science building. So that's all new hardscape in there. We basically worked with the topography as much as possible. So there's only walks there. There's no ramps on that part of the project. And then we have stairs elsewhere. So we've kind of adopted that process, worked with Sam Mathis, our landscape architect, and Flowers and Associates on a civil side to really kind of adopt the same methodology for this new work. If you can go to page 5, it shows you more. This is kind of the condition as it is right now. The asphalt with the concrete steps. If you look on the bottom left-hand corner image, that leads back out of where the principal project is and goes back out into the turnaround. And it's very steep, so we're fixing all that stuff and making it more accessible and adding site lighting too, which we'll talk about. If you can go to, if we can go to sheet 16 and 17, just real quick. It's a lot of civil sheets here, so this is all part of the package, but. So this is our pervious impervious area. So all that is pervious right now. On the far right, you'll see this little white island. That's an existing area where there's a landscaping. And what we're doing is we're narrowing the existing asphalt driveway down and reincorporating that into usable space for the campus. But we're, if you go to the next page on 17, so this is the improvement that we're doing. So we're taking it and making it more pervious in those areas and re-landscaping those areas. And then being a little bit more direct about how the hardscape is laid out. So we have a little bit more hierarchy in terms of wider paths for real direct routes, narrower paths for kind of pass-through routes. And then we've added these little outdoor patio spaces on the right-hand side that'll all be incorporated in the landscaping. And then that asphalt drive will just stay for emergency access, which is part of the master plan originally. If we can go to page 20. This is just the WELO calcs, just to know that they're in here. And then page 23. So this is Sam's plan here, kind of showing the landscaping and how we're making our paths all kind of work with the existing topography. So if you start at the top left corner and you enter the site, you see immediately there's a ramp that goes to the left and then it goes back to the right. That's kind of our gathering space number 1. The Haskell building, the existing building, it's kind of a split level building. So we're dropping people off there to get to those classrooms that are on the north side. And then if you left there, you kind of wind back up to another ramp towards the left, which takes you to the next level. And that takes you to that patio space. And we're trying to use the patio space as our pass through to get to the other level, which is now higher up. And so we have that second gathering space there. And then we're continuing south to the amphitheater that doesn't currently have an accessible path to it. So we're just incorporating that in this part of the project. Then on the outdoor spaces, you kind of see they're tucked away and kind of held back and protected off the road. That road is basically for emergency vehicles and some maintenance vehicles, so it's going to have minimal access to it. And we're going towards the master plan, which was basically to take away that asphalt road and narrow it down to very specific uses. Most of the parking is on the lower lot by the gym. So, and then site details, if you want to just go to page 27. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So this is basically details. This is similar to what we did at the other project. We're just reusing some of the details. It's stack boulder walls, gravity walls where we can. And then we have our handrail details. And then the one last comment would be on page 29. So this is our site lighting. We had really good success on the previous project of just using very low pathway lighting. So again, trying to respect the neighborhood setting that it's in and trying to prevent anything that's overhead and glares back down since it is sloping up the hill. So all the site lighting is these low bollard lights or these the step lights are the ones on the bottom left. So that's basically the presentation. We have a color board too. And I'm hoping to additionally today get approved a Davis color that's similar to that Increte color for the concrete. But it's basically matching the existing concrete that we did in the previous project. But I'd like to get this the San Diego buff color approved too, because we've had issues in the past with supply of that material at the time that we need it. And so we want to get 2 products approved if we can today. And then the other one, the railing, is just a standard color that's been used throughout the campus, and that's what we're matching in this project. And that's it.
Thank you. Move on to questions from the board. No questions? All right. Any
Can I add one more thing? We did receive Hope Branch final approval for the whole project.
any public comment online?
If anybody would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the chat. Looks like no speakers.
Okay, we'll move on to comments from the board. John?
It's perfect. The only thing objectionable is to ask for 2 colors. That's too much. We never do that. We only approve 1. Okay.
I tried to get it in
That's
2
good.
sheets, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks like a really nice improvement, and I really like the gathering areas that have been created and the accessibility and getting rid of that old asphalt everywhere mood. Yeah, it's good.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And just as a matter of record, I had an ex parte conversation with Sam Maphis a few days ago, just because he wasn't able to be here and present. So he kind of walked me through, what the plan was here. And so I think it looks excellent. I think we do need to at least write in or something, the extra color that you want, even if you just, so that if we give you approval today, it would be included. But otherwise, I think there's some really nice maneuvers here, especially reducing the asphalt and adding, looks like outdoor classrooms. It's rare that it goes this way. It's usually the opposite, getting rid of more landscape for more asphalt. So I applaud that. And so, yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I agree with the positive comments. I went to school here. It's changed a lot since when I went there. I always wondered how they're gonna make it ADA accessible because it's a challenging site to try to do that. So I don't know if the whole school is ADA accessible now, but I appreciate all the work you guys have put towards it. It looks great. This looks way nicer than when I went to school there.
I agree with positive comments. So you are here for
Everything.
everything.
The whole enchilada.
That's right. Steve's magic that he pulled on us. So does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for concept, preliminary, and final approval.
All right, do we have a second?
And I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
We don't actually.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Sir, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.